Fight Night Picks is brought to you by Vertiball. Head on over to their website. It's vertiball.com. And listen, it's an awesome product. It's a local company out of New Brunswick, Canada. So make sure you support those guys locally as well as Fight Night Picks. But they're the only mountable portable muscle massager. They can stick on any smooth surface. They've got an industrial strength suction cup. Can support over 100 pounds of pressure. You can get really into those deep knots. I have one here at home. I use it for my back and my shoulders from holding up that Fight Night Picks Pick'em trophy. But listen, make sure you check them out. It's a great product. Like I said, they're recommended by physiotherapists, masseuses, and chiropractors across Canada, the US, UK, and Australia. And they're used by countless professional athletes like Minka Fitzpatrick on screen there, as well as Clellan Farrell of the Raiders. So if you head into the cart, make sure you check them out. So I've got a Vertiball massager in my cart right there. Use the promo code FNP. You're going to save 10% off your order. You're supporting this company here that I'm very passionate about in New Brunswick, Canada, and you're helping out us as well. So make sure you check them out, vertiball.com, promo code FNP, 10% off your order. And without further ado, let's get into it.
From the guys who brought you Fight Night Picks, and for a short time, hitting above the Mendoza line, comes the Allen Brothers' next project. Let's tear the cover off and join in 15-minute card break.
And welcome back to another episode of Fight Night Picks.
Ladies and gentlemen, recorded in Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada. It's time for Fight Night Picks with your host, Craig and Matt.
Holy smokes, what a fight card we've had so far. UFC 266, as always, one half your host, Craig Allen. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram, at Craig Allen FNP. I've been very active over there. Tonight, I'll pop the shades off. Not even shades. Matt, Allen, FNP on their respective socials, Twitter and Instagram. It's been a wild card so far. Matt Semmelsberger picking up an insane first-round knockout over Martin Sano, and we just had an incredible come-from-behind win from Rob Duashvili where he was dead to rights. He was finished in the first round for all intents and purposes. Keith Peterson lets the boys play on. And wow, do we ever get an absolute drubbing from then on out.
That's one of the greatest comebacks I've ever seen. And I don't think that's a hot take. I don't think that's just me reacting to it. Well, okay, this is me freshly reacting to it. But Rob was out. Like Chicago versus Pat Barry levels of out. And I know it was the left hook that kept on landing for Marlon, but there was just one exchange where he hit Merab with an uppercut, and you just saw Merab's head kind of Pez dispenser back. You saw his eyes go up, and I thought, okay, this is finally it for Duvalishvili. And then he gets one of those classic, like, baby deer leg Kevin Lee takedowns, and from then on, it was all Merab. It was just, that was a wild fight. And that fight more than anything proves that it doesn't matter how hard you hit, doesn't matter how fast you are, how good you are at every skill of MMA. Cardio and heart go a really, really long way, and Merab just proved that.
Absolute insanity. Tovan, I'm assuming that's you over there hanging out as well, saying, yo, it's been bonkers. I mean, some of the coolest content that you're going to find out there on Instagram and Twitter, so make sure you check him out. But man, an absolutely insane finish in that fight. And overall, again, it's been a wild, wild card. We want to thank everybody so far who's tuned in. Tell a friend, hang out, and enjoy these fights. But we've had a great night so far. Obviously, the two of us, we were split on the picks, Maximov and Turner. But man, it has been a wild one. JSP picking up a great win, getting the submission there. Just wrestling Omar Morales into exhaustion. Matt Semmelsberger with a wild knockout. Nick Maximov, hey, Cody Brundage. I know they build him as a kickboxer at the start. Should have kickboxed, but he decided to wrestle in the second. That was ultimately a deciding factor in that fight. Jalen Turner looks amazing with a complete performance. Tyler Santos goes off, has one of those career-defining type of wins. Chris Dawkins knocking out Abdurkimov. Dan Hooker with a great complete win as well over Nazareth Hackprass. Obviously extenuating circumstances kind of taking away from Hackprass. You could say the same thing about Dan Hooker, but a wild one there. And then Merab capping things off on these prelims. I mean, so far, if I'm not mistaken, we're both 6-2 through the prelims. We have 5 big-time fights coming up. Andrade Calvillo, former titleist at 115 pounds. Curtis Blades, Rosenstrike, knockout abilities, and finishing abilities abound at 265 pounds. Robbie Lawler, Nick Diaz, 17 years in the making. That rematch, Shevchenko Murphy for flyweight gold. And then at featherweight, Volkanovski taking on Brian Ortega. Over there in the comments section, Brandon Ridley saying, wicked cards so far. Good to see you boys. Appreciate you. That was so hard to watch, what Bob's saying. That was an insane fight that we just had, Merab and Marlon Moraes.
That's fight of the night without a doubt. Like, if we're handing out our personal awards for right now, I would say Matthew Semmelsberger right now is a lock to get $50K. He won via knockout in 10 seconds. Now, yes, the level of competition might not really be there, and I don't really know how much the UFC takes that into consideration, but I would say a 10-second knockout, you probably deserve a bonus off that. I would say the other one right now, Chris Daukaus, maybe? That was a pretty great knockout over Shamil Abdurakhimov.
Well, it was 2 knockouts.
Exactly, and he did look so great. And that was a really fun fight, too, up until the finish. And even the Dan Hooker-Nasrat Haqparast fight, I know Dan Hooker looked great in that fight, and maybe you'll disagree with me, and feel free to, but I don't feel like Nasrat lost a lot of stock in that fight. I still feel like he landed some good shots in the feet against Dan Hooker, and yeah, he wasn't able to beat the 8th-ranked guy in the world, but the only people who've been able to beat Dan Hooker at lightweight have been Dustin Poirier, Edson Barboza, and Michael Chandler, 3 of the very best to do it, so I feel like that fight was oddly kind of best-case scenario for both guys.
Well, the conversation over there, Bob saying Moraes versus Sean O'Malley, you'd love to see that one. Sean O'Malley's got a tough fight with Brian Kelleher. I mean, he really does. Like, he's going above and beyond, calling out lightweights, featherweights, whoever wants to get the name called out. It's kind of, we're treading into that Dylan Dennis level of cringe. Level of cringe.
No, we're not. We're not even close.
Yeah, 209 months since the first Diaz-Lawler fight. Obviously, Nick Baldwin got his 5 minutes there with that tweet. But, yeah, it's absolutely insane. And yeah, I mean, it's a fight that, listen, I've been hyped for it. A little bit of a highlight of Paddy Pimblett before this one. He looks unrecognizable today. He's gained about 50 pounds between the fight and now, 2 weeks later. But yeah, I absolutely love this one. If this is your first time tuning in with our fight companion, what we're going to do, to give you the rundown now, we'll do it again before the fight. I'm going to click the logo out of the middle, and then I'm going to click the 5-minute timer when the round starts. I have the power to pause that if we have any, fight pausing sequences. Eye poke, groin shot, whatever it might be, then we can hit play once again, and then at the end of it, we toss that logo back there in the middle. The other thing that we're going to be doing during this one is if we flip it on over to our second screen, you're going to get a bit of an idea of the matchups that we have for this card. Obviously, the first one coming at us, Andrade taking on Calvillo to kick off this pay-per-view. I think this is a certified banger at 125. I mean, we got a really complete fight out of Tyler Santos against Roxanne Modafferi. Bit of a stepping stone, if you will. I think this fight will be a little bit more competitive. What are you thinking here?
I really do think this is as competitive as any fight could be at 125 pounds. And Cynthia Calvillo, there's a really promising prospect, but I don't even really like throwing the term prospect on her because she's a little bit older than you'd like her to be in that prospect role. She is, 33 years old? 34, which is quite surprising because she's so young in her career. And that is one thing that you do have to take into consideration. Jessica Andrade in MMA years, I would say, is much older than Cynthia Calvillo because for Calvillo, she has a very grapple-heavy style, a very grinding type of a style. So when she does win a fight, it is very one-sided. Like, even look at the Jessica I fight. It was, I'm going to dominate you at range with my long-range strikes. Then when we're in close, I'm the much superior grappler. I'm going to be really interested to see how this fight kind of pans out on those in-close exchanges because at range, it's not that Andrade can't fight at range, it's that, physically she just can't fight at range. She is one of the smaller fighters, really in any weight division. Like, even when she fought at 115, physically, she was kind of small compared to some of those other fighters. So I think Calvillo could have a lot of success on the outside, but I do favor Andrade at least early in the grappling, and that's why I like her in this fight.
Yeah, I mean, Devin 4K saying Calvillo plus 185 is disrespectful. I don't think it's disrespectful whatsoever. I mean, gamblers, the odds makers at the start of it, they're all in agreement that the former champion has an edge here. And for Cynthia Calvillo, we can look back, good wins. Obviously, her move up to 125, very fruitful getting that win over Jessica I, but that's just it. It's 50-50 Jessica I.
This is what I will say, though, about Andrade. I do have quite a few question marks coming into this fight for her, and I would say I'm one of the bigger Andrade believers out there. I didn't pick her to beat Shevchenko, but I'm not going to lie. I was that close to doing it, and I really do think Andrade is that type of a talent. My only issue is that we haven't seen her be the physical force at 125 pounds that we had seen her be at 115 pounds. Yes, she hits hard for this weight division. Yes, she has really good wrestling. But it's a matter of, can she use her physical strength to the same ability that she did at 115 pounds? Because if she is able to, then I do expect a fairly easy win for her. And she should be right back in there in a title shot or in title contention. But if not, then Cynthia Calvillo is, one fight away from a title shot? And that's not something I thought I'd ever be saying.
Chris hanging out with us over in the comments section. Both Chris's and everybody wanted it, but the come on, Marab! you ended up getting it. I mean, what an absolutely insane win that was. We're going to be talking about that one for a long time, I'm sure. Curtis Blaydes taking on Jairzinho Rozenstruik. I absolutely love this fight, and I'll mess around a little bit with the graphics as I hand it off to you, because, Matt, when I look at this one, again, I feel like it's one thing or the other thing. I put both guys in a box. One guy's a wrestler. He'll use his striking to set up his wrestling, but it's very limited compared to the overall depth of his ground game. For Jairzinho Rozenstruik, decent takedown defense. Has gotten better as his career has gone on. You know, didn't let, I guess, Cyril Gahn implement that game plan when he was up against the cage, but realistically, with Jairzinho, one of the more complete kickboxers you're going to find in this division.
Jairzinho has fast hands, and that's not something a lot of guys in the heavyweight division have. Like, look at Chris Dawkins. He's one of the few who has great hand speed, and look how far he's been able to carry him. This is going to be a very interesting fight because we all know how good Jairzinho is fighting at range. When he's at long range, crashing forward, actually throwing his hands in combination, which is something we talk about to no end, because that's when Rozenstruik is at his best. When he is actually tying in his overhand left with his right straight, getting his kicks involved, he is a very dangerous heavyweight, and I would say one of the more complete kickboxers in the heavyweight division. To me, it really is Cyril Gahn and Jairzinho Rozenstruik as two of the more, I would say, technical kickboxers in this division. They both get it done differently.
Without Overeem, they're definitely two of the top guys.
Exactly. And the thing about Rozenstruik is that he hasn't shown the ability to really get up off the bottom once he is taken down, and that's the really big issue. I know Junior Albini had maybe a better run than some people might remember, honestly. We might actually be underrating Junior Albini's run in hindsight, but Junior Albini wasn't only able to take Jairzinho down, he was able to hold him down too. And if he's able to do that, Curtis Blaydes definitely will. So for Blaydes, it's not just a matter of getting Rozenstruik to the mat, it's a matter of he has to do damage once he gets him down there. Because if he doesn't damage him every single round, then Rozenstruik will have that first minute, round 1, 2, and 3, to potentially knock Blaydes out.
And we just saw this in our last fight. I mean, Marlon Moraes, you knew that the example was if he can get it done on the feet, he's going to be able to get it done. And I mean, by a hair, he wasn't able to get that one done. Over in the comments section, Blaydes knocks Biggie Boy out from full guard like he did against Overeem. Anthony, I don't know. This one scares me. I mean, the QMK parlay went 1-2, so that means it didn't hit. But overall, it's been a good night so far. I don't want to ruin it. For me, the main card, it's all about the pop and the popcorn. I'm going to enjoy it for what it's worth. I like Blaydes in this one. We both had him coming into this one. But again, there is that threat where the guy's been knocked out 3 times by 2 very big power punchers. I kind of scares me away a little bit that way.
No, that's exactly what it is. You can kind of look at it 2 ways. When you get knocked out, you can either have, and I hate that I'm about to say this, but you can either look like Dan Hooker in his last fight, where, yes, he was still able to...
Oh my gosh. On the broadcast, they just showed a guy that definitely wasn't on Team Volkanovski.
Anyways, you can go. I forgot what I was saying.
We'll continue on. We'll go to our next fight, Matt. We have the rematch between Nick Diaz and Robbie Lawler. Obviously, this one is 17 years in the making. By his own doing, Nick Diaz moving this fight to 185 pounds. Lawler coming in at 184. Diaz at 185.5. When I look at this fight, again, you have the build-up. You had the countdown show where... really, the interviews and all the conversation, it wasn't like there were people asking Diaz questions. I mean, yeah, behind closed doors, you know, on the other side of that camera, somebody was asking him a question. But he had the time to think things through. There wasn't as much pressure, and he was very articulate. But this week, it was that old Nick Diaz from like 10, 12 years ago where the thoughts are kind of all over the place. He doesn't inspire a lot of confidence, but you know exactly what you're going to get when this guy comes into the cage. He is always fight ready, and in his last fight, one of the more iconic pictures and moments, singular moments in MMA, the guy's clowning and laying out against Anderson Silva, taking on the former welterweight champ in the UFC, Robbie Lawler. Both of these guys with titles outside of the UFC as well. A great lineage for either guy as well. So I really do love this fight. It comes down to Nick Diaz Academy against Sanford MMA. What are you thinking here?
If anybody tells you they know what's going to happen in this fight, they don't know what's going to happen in this fight, because Robbie Lawler isn't the same fighter that he used to be. His aggression was one of the things that kind of made him unique. He was so aggressive, even when he was champion, he would just go after guys, no matter what round it was, whether he was down on the scorecards, up on the scorecards, he would fight in a reckless way. He didn't get the nickname Ruthless just because it rhymed with Robbie. He got it because that is his fighting style. My issue is that in his last little run, and ever since he did lose that fight to Tyron Woodley, And maybe it was before that. Maybe it was due to the wars with Johnny Hendricks, with Rory McDonald, with Carlos Condit, because he's been in a number of them. So for Robbie Lawler, it's just a matter of, can he get back at least a little bit of that shine? If he is the one moving forward and putting pressure on Nick Diaz, this is the one thing that I do believe in, even though I don't believe in much when it comes to MMA, because like that last fight showed, nothing is a guarantee. I would rather a guy get into a fight early after a long layoff and not get hit immediately. Like if Nick Diaz gets into a type of a grappling exchange early on in this fight, I'm going to like it a lot more for him as it goes on, as opposed to if Robbie Lawler starts this fight out, hits him with one left straight, it gives Nick Diaz a chance to evaluate like, oh, I don't really like getting hit. It's been 6 years. Maybe I'm not a big MMA fan. That's where Robbie Lawler can have success. I think Robbie Lawler has to go after Nick Diaz the exact same way he did Cowboy Cerrone when they first fought. Get that single collar tie, start ripping uppercuts and hooks, and just make life ugly for Nick Diaz. Because the one thing you can't do in training, no matter how hard you train or how hard you spar, you're not going to get those real legitimate power shots in from a guy like Robbie Lawler.
Want to hear from everybody out there. Who do you have in the rematch? Are you going Lawler? Are you going Diaz? I mean, Bob going back to blades with the championship qualities, but again, you kind of scare about, the knockout. It's obviously one of those things. And then also saying about the fact that, bad vibes. That Josh Thompson thing was weird. I talked about it on Early Stoppage. The episode should come out tomorrow. John Franklin's computer just keeps crashing, but it is really weird. And Bob, the interesting thing is Lawler's regression has not only been due to his chin, but his output. Yeah, it's one of those ones where, and again, you hate to bring the guy in, but let's rope him back in. Tyron Woodley, it was like, okay, he was never one to be quick with his hands. He wasn't a guy to just throw. But you saw that aggression out of him when his back was against the wall against Luque. Maybe that's an opportunity for Lawler here on a 4-fight losing streak against an old foe. So I really do like this fight. I think it's going to be good. But I want to hear from everybody. Matt the Mix saying, if I were Nick, I'd bet the house on Lawler and take the L. You can't do that. Who was that? Tae Hyung Bang or whatever, isn't that who it was that did it?
15 thing parlay?
No. When he was fighting over in Korea. Who's the guy that fought?
Leo Kuntz?
Yeah, Leo Kuntz and the guy that he fought, whose name evades me. Nice. Matt, our first title fight, we have Valentina Shevchenko taking on the ever-difficult, lucky Lauren Murphy. I mean, I don't know two guys who have done a bigger 180 on a fighter in my life other than us two on Lauren Murphy. She went from our, list over to, just absolute stardom, the 2020 Female Fighter of the Year for Fight Night Picks. Over in the comments section, one big on Usyk. Hey, Rob G was paying attention.
I put $20 on him before the fight started just because he was an underdog, and it was a pleasant surprise to see him win.
How happy were we? That was a giant win.
It was a great fight, too.
Yeah, that was great. Matt the Mix saying Leo was a pioneer. Yeah, yikes.
So, for this co-main event, these are my issues with Lauren Murphy. All of Valentina Shevchenko's opponents, other than Lauren Murphy, have at least brought one unique trait to the octagon with them. For instance, Kayla Chookagian might not have great striking in a sense that she goes out there and gets knockouts, but she has great elusive footwork, she has really good long-range striking, and I know we're being very specific with some of these things, but there are at least small areas where her opponents might have a slight edge over herself. The issue with Lauren Murphy is that she is so well-rounded, and while normally that is a massive advantage to have inside the cage, you're fighting one of the most well-rounded champions we've ever seen. And that's the thing about Shevchenko. Everybody talks about her kickboxing and whatnot, but I feel like this channel was kind of onto it before most people were. I think about Valentina Shevchenko first and foremost as a grappler. I know that is weird because a lot of her fights start on the feet, and she has that up-and-down style, but when you think about Shevchenko and the ways and the areas that she gets most of her damage off, it's from that top crucifix position, it's from back mount, it's when she is actually mixing her martial arts. So that's the issue I have with Lauren Murphy. She's got good but not great takedowns. She has good but not great striking. She doesn't really have knockout power. I think she can have a few areas where she'll have success, but I really don't think that the game of Lauren Murphy is a type that can go out there and steal minutes and rounds away from Shevchenko.
Matt the Mick, Joe Rogan's on a hunting trip, so there's that. Jesse Crayford, glad that you could join us as well. Sean V, saying that, Murphy hasn't been finished. At least she brings that trait. And Kyle Kelly saying biggest pop of the night will be before the Diaz-Lawler fight. I think it definitely will be. And Dylan R, that Usyk fight was great. Jessica Andrade taking on, obviously, a tough test. We'll move on just quickly over to our main event of the evening. You have Volkanovski. You have Ortega. I love this fight. Again, I said this on Question Mark Kicks as a breaking the fourth wall, but for me, I had a hard time at the start of the week when I really looked at this one. I mean, the new camp around Brian Ortega, it seems very focused on him. It's not like, there's so many other fighters in the stable that you have to worry about. And coming into this fight, obviously, has one goal in mind. He wants to be the featherweight champ. Now, you've seen the videos out there. Brian kind of tiptoed around it. Maybe that wasn't the singular goal. Maybe girls just want to have fun. But his girl didn't want to have fun and wanted him to be focused up. For Alexander Volkanovski, I mean, it's like Lennox Lewis before a fight. We're just like ironclad. We're going in there. We got a job to do. City Kickboxing got one win. Volkanovski, one of those kind of guys by proxy with City Kickboxing because he does mainly train out of Australia. But I love this one. Sean is going with Ortega. Phoenix is going with Ortega. I think it's a really close fight. The line kind of surprised me. Yanni the Greek, of all people, in the prelims was talking about this fight where he said,
When Ortega put the house on Ortega by submission in 3 seconds.
Ortega was, in the same-ish realm of an underdog when he took on Holloway. Dipped, then he was a big underdog against Korean Zombie, then his stock went way up. Now his stock's still really high against Volkanovski. Now, plus 180, plus 185, call that what you will. I still say that's pretty high for Ortega against a guy that hasn't lost in 19 fights since 2013 in Volkanovski. I love it. But yeah, I think Brian Ortega is a game challenger in this fight.
Fighting Brian Ortega is like trying to defuse a bomb. It really is. Like, you just can't make any mistakes because any mistake will be your last one. Brian Ortega's striking, he's got great power with his striking. Now the technique is starting to catch up to the power because that was kind of the problem with Brian Ortega. He was like a baseball player who hits home runs and then just falls in love with their home runs.
Crush Davis.
Exactly. And then they start striking out more and other reasons. So, my thing with Brian Ortega is that when you do fight him, you have to be perfect. Now, luckily, Alexander Volkanovski is not a fighter who makes a lot of mistakes. He is somebody who kind of almost forces his opponent to act first, and then he reacts to it. Now, I know we talk about this a lot. Guys who have sort of reactionary games, or people who are leading the dance. Volkanovski leads the dance by not leading the dance. And I know that sounds really weird, but when you are dealing with a striker or someone with a fight IQ like Alexander Volkanovski, you kind of have to think about things on that level. Because Volkanovski, the way he beat Max Holloway wasn't the fact that he went out there and beat Max Holloway with crazy amounts of volume or big power shots. Now, yes, he landed good power shots and he did have very good volume in those fights, but he was setting up these big shots and then he'd land a jab or land a leg kick, reset, and do it all over again. It's because he knew that when I fight Max Holloway, if I'm off balance one time and he hits me with one good shot, he's going to hit me with 17 good shots that are going to turn into 50 good shots. And Alexander Volkanovski understood that if I do just set up my game behind my feints, behind my setups, I will have success. I think the fact that Volkanovski knows that if I make this fight boring or if I just lower the output of the fight, then he should have success. And I say this all even though Alexander Volkanovski is a fighter who has absurd output himself. He hasn't shown that he gets tired in MMA fights yet. And really, the thing about Alexander Volkanovski is that he doesn't really have a single weakness that you could just point to and say, oh, Volkanovski needs to work on this.
Well, we'll flip it on back to that first fight that's on the main card. Andrade taking on Calvillo. I don't know if we asked for the picks, but I do want to hear it here. Are you going with the former champion in one really tough out, Jessica Andrade? Are you going with Cynthia Calvillo? They're putting it out there, the DraftKings things. I mean, one of those two hit, but somebody put $5K on Martin Sano. And listen, sometimes you just look stupid. You just fall flat, face into the mud. Somebody fell face into the mud. Now, at least they didn't put their name out there. Cynthia Calvillo making the walk here, coming out of San Jose, California. She's somebody that switched gyms a lot. It's one of those things that she was at Team Alpha Male. She was at AKA. I think now she's out of Extreme Couture, if I'm not mistaken. Like, it's really been a whirlwind for Calvillo, who's not one of the younger prospects that is out there. And if you look at it for Calvillo, 9-2-1 the total record. At the 5 on in, it's 3-1. Win over Poliana Botelho by submission. Win over Courtney Casey, Marina Rodriguez. That's just a draw that continues to mature quite well. A win over Jessica Ai in her debut at flyweight here. And then a loss to Caitlin Chukagian. Just really couldn't get it going in that fight. The 5 on in, less good, I guess I could say, without using a ton of adjectives. But if you look at it for Jessica Andrade, the win over Namajunas, the loss to Zhang, the loss to Namajunas by split, the win over Chukagian, and then, of course, the loss to Valentina. maybe not the biggest of surprises. Jesse put a lot on Andrade, I'm assuming, there. But yeah, this is a very interesting fight because Andrade has those big movements for such a small person. And she's one of those people that just go, go, go. Calvillo is one of those ones that likes to play a little bit more of a long game in her fights and has that length and reach to go for a lot of those submission abilities. So I'm really interested to see what kind of a fight we get out here. Will it be me falling flat on my face going with Andrade? What are you thinking here? Because I know we're in agreement there, but what do you ultimately see in this one?
Remember when Ryan Kosei did that interview on this channel and he was like, my body don't work too great and I haven't gotten surgery on it. Now, that's not a direct quote, but that's pretty much what he said. He had some very serious injuries that he did do the rehab for himself, but it might not have been the most traditional of methods. Let's just say that. I can see Andrade having one of those performances where once it's over, it's over. You know what I mean? Where she can't get those big takedowns anymore. Like, she just kind of reaches that point where the fatigue catches up to her now a little bit earlier. And I could see this being the fight. I'm not even going to lie. I picked Jessica Andrade, but the more I think about this fight, this is my Chris Daukaus Shamil Abdurakhimov, where although Andrade is a decently sized favorite, I do have some hesitations because if Andrade can't get Calvillo out of there in the first 2 rounds, I do think Calvillo has the superior cardio, and I do think grappling for a second, I don't consider grappling. Grappling for minutes, I think Calvillo has a slight edge. I think if Andrade gets on top, she can get good ground and pound off, she can have success, but I think the longer that they're grappling, that's a lot of energy that Andrade is going to be wasting, and I could see this fight being one of those, Andrade looks great for a round and a half, but everything she does throughout those first 7.5 minutes requires a ton of energy, and for the last 6 or 7 minutes, I could see Cynthia Calvillo starting to put it on Andrade, and maybe even getting a sub by the end of it. I'm going to stick with the Andrade pick because it's way too late to change now, but I could see there are avenues for Calvillo to win.
We'll bring it over to the smooth transition. Again, this is view that you're going to get during the fight. There's going to be a lag between us to you to the fight. So what you can do, I'm going to hit the logo up in the middle. I'm going to have the 5-minute timer. We can pause it if there are any issues. So there's the pause. But pause things on your end so you're on the level with us. You don't want to ruin the spoiler over there in the comments section. We don't need any of that. I'll pop the logo back up there. Diego's saying, got Andrade 90%. If I had a look at Fight Night Picks over on the Instagrams, which I will, 85% had Andrade, 538 total votes for Andrade to 94 that had Calvillo. So not a lot of people going with Calvillo in the spot, but like you said, I mean, I do see this as a bit of a tight fight. It is a bit of a tricky one for Andrade. And for Calvillo, perfect opportunity to just jump everybody there. And obviously, it is kind of a odd spot because there's a lot of people that just kind of go up and down and up and down. But we have a neat one here. You have the height, you have the reach, you have the age, and the weight's the same, but everything just about favors Calvillo in this one. Nothing is nearly identical, as Mike Goldberg would say, but yeah, this should be a neat fight at the top of this division. Andrade right up there at number 1.
And that's the weird thing about this division. It is kind of like women's bantamweight, where it's like, okay, the number 1 contender and the champion are so much better than everybody else. We just kind of have to fill in the rest of the division, because I can quite comfortably say, at least as of right now, unless Cynthia Calvillo does something crazy, that Andrade is head and shoulders above the next person in line. So who? Caitlin Chukagian, I guess, because she proved that. She knocked her out with the first solid shot that she landed. So let's say Andrade does go out there, completely bullies Calvillo, and then let TKOs her in the 3rd round or something, or wins the decision 30-25. Let's just say worst case scenario Calvillo, best case scenario Andrade. It's kind of hard to repackage an Andrade Shevchenko too, because we all saw what happened in the first fight. It was not competitive, and even the areas we thought Andrade should have success in, she struggled in. So I don't really know where they go if Andrade wins. It's a weird division.
It really is. So I mean, Calvillo getting her props here in the blue corner from Bruce Buffer, getting out into the middle of the octagon. Last week, we had an interesting one between Devin Clark and a mob of security men that wouldn't let Iwan Kutsalaba go anywhere. That was something that you just don't often really see. But for Iwan, big time win there. And yeah, you're right. For Devin Clark, he had to get emergency braces. Something I didn't really know existed, but emergency braces. Sometimes you need them. I'm going to pop that camera up a little bit so we don't cut off the top of Matt's head.
Sorry.
And now Matt decides to sit back.
Okay,
just sit where you're going to sit. Just have fun. We're having fun.
I'm having fun.
All right, then we're going to move it back up. There we go. And now we're getting set for this one. Breakdowns with Bake. Love you, boys. Great content. Listen, I am really excited for this fight. At 125 pounds to kick off our pay-per-view, appreciate everybody for tuning in. Breakdowns with Bake, Eric, Dylan R, Jesse Crayford, Peter Shea, Sean V, Phoenix, Matt the Mick.
What's up, everybody?
Everybody else that's out there in the chat, you can make yourselves known. And here we go. We're going to start that 5-minute timer. Boom.
First woman with 20 UFC fights. Sorry, Craig, not to cut you off.
Jessica Andrade coming out here in the Orthodox. You get the southpaw in Calvillo to start this one. Quite a bit of movement on the feet in and out, but Andrade just kind of stalking Calvillo to this point. Throws a leg kick.
And I'm really curious to see when Andrade does decide to do her first big action, because she's not a fighter who can win a fight on the outside throughout 3 rounds. She's going to have to do either get into the clinch or try to land a big power shot. So I'm curious to see just how aggressive she'll be early on.
Calvillo circling away from the power she was. And Andrade's just looking to close that distance. She does have Calvillo behind the block line early. Nice leg kick there from Andrade with about 4:18 remaining in her first round.
And the thing about Andrade, and it's the reason that I do worry about her cardio, is that she doesn't just have power. When she does decide to throw, it is massive flurries of 10, 12, 11 punches. Like, it's a lot at a time to deal with. So if she is able to start flurrying on Calvillo early, I do think she'll be able to have continued success throughout.
Yeah, I mean, Andrade just continues to pressure forward. Calvillo on the back foot, really starting to stumble a little bit into the cage. Ooh, big right hand lands for Andrade.
Big right hand for Andrade. But the thing I don't like about Andrade is after she lands a shot, she'll kind of like square back up again. It'd be nice if she could stay composed every now and then. I know we kind of like the John Lineker-ness of her game, but every now and then it is okay to take your foot off the gas pedal.
Justin Pomeroy over there in the chat. Appreciate you as well. And Sean V. 3:30 remaining in the first round. Andrade with the bigger actions here. Calvillo winging a little wild with some of these strikes, and it is not something as coach I'm sure that you like to see when you're taking on somebody with the striking prowess of the former champion Andrade.
I don't mind the kicks out of Calvillo, though. She's doing a good job at least keeping distance between her and Andrade, and that's really going to be the key to this fight, because if Andrade is able to close the distance and land those power shots, it's going to be good night Irene for old Calvillo.
Left hook and a low kick there for Andrade, closing in on 3 minutes remaining here. Rob G saying, where's the suits, lads? Matt really just kind of stunk up a storm and didn't want to wear the suits today.
It's just weird. We're not like Joe Rogan for real,
Dress
bro.
for the job you want, not the job you have. Ian Parker's with ESPN now doing picks, so hey.
So I'll wear our merch and promote it instead.
Credit to the Duck. Andrade really going hot and heavy in here so far, landing a lot of great shots. And Matt the Mix saying, we all on a 45-second delay? Yeah, you got to pause it. That's why. But, yeah, I mean, Jessica Andrade doing a lot of really good work here.
Yeah, she's starting to land good power shots. And that's the thing. When she's not just sticking to these single shots, she is landing big power in combination.
Another left hook lands for Andrade. Second half of this first round. But, I mean, yeah, Calvillo's having a really hard time with these looping shots. And another great leg kick lands there at the lower portion of the calf for Andrade. She's just absolutely decimating that lead leg of Calvillo, who we've seen switch stances here, but she struggled from both stances so far.
Yeah, and I'm really curious to see if Calvillo does decide to go for a takedown herself, because Andrade has really nice takedown defense, and a lot of that is because of her immense physical strength. So it'll be really interesting to see if Calvillo is able to give this fight a different look.
Yeah, Andrade really starting to land with a lot of power, but Calvillo eating these shots quite well.
Calvillo's landed a couple shots up the middle too, as Andrade has been closing the distance. So it's not just a one-sided beatdown so far.
1:35 remaining in our first round. Andrade doing a great job, really just cutting the cage so far. Calvillo does have her back off. Now we're back to the center of the octagon. She's got a limited amount of time to work with, considering what we've seen from Andrade so far.
And this has always been the weird thing about Andrade's career. I'm glad you brought that up about her cutting off the cage, because in some fights she will just kind of follow her opponent. In other fights she is really good about cutting off the cage. And it is the weird thing about Andrade. She will kind of shift fight to fight about some things that she is really good about. Cage cutting being one of them. And her head movement's another thing. The second Namajunas fight, she came out moving her head a lot, just as her natural movement on the feet. And it really did stifle the attack of Namajunas, at least later on in that fight. Namajunas is doing well early on. So I'm just kind of curious, or I'm surprised to see that she's moved away from that.
Yeah, less than a minute remaining here so far. Calvillo's looking to kind of get her footing back, but it's that left hook, that long left hook into the shorter fighter that's been kind of landing on the chin. And for Andrade, she continues to find a home. But Calvillo is nothing if she's not resilient.
No, and she's a real long fighter, too. Even at this weight division, which is kind of surprising. But Calvillo's done better in some of these striking exchanges than I believed, as she just eats about 4 right hooks.
Andrade kind of chasing her around here, but just having a ton of success in this round. She's really starting to tee off. Big time flurry here at the end of the round. 15 seconds remaining. Calvillo doing a good job, enough to kind of keep herself in this, shelling up. Referee Herb Dean's getting a good look at this action.
They might stop it.
That's the end of the fight.
Wow, she just flurried on her at the end to get it. I'm a little surprised on that stoppage.
You know what? Herb was probably in the back. He saw what happened to Keith Peterson. He saw what happened to Mark Smith, and he said, hey, we don't need another Dacus of Durakimov. Big first-round win for Andrade. But again, what do you do? Like, do you put her in another title fight?
I almost said submit Juliana Pena next, but I understand that's extremely disrespectful to Juliana Pena, because I just thought, hey, do whatever Jermaine Durandamy does next. It's going to be really odd. Now, I do think that was a bit of an early stoppage. Let me get that out of the way right now. To me, I wouldn't have stopped that. I understand she wasn't really showing you a lot by just putting her head down, but a little too early for myself. Now, I don't really know. To me, it is Andrade. Shevchenko is on some other level that no one's ever going to get to. But right below her should just be the permanent interim champ, Jessica Andrade.
Yeah, throwing it on over to Instagram. I'm going to post it right now. But again, 85% of the fans had Andrade to get the win here. She was a very sizable favorite in this fight, so maybe not that much of a surprise. Let's head on over to our second look here, Matt. And obviously it's a little hard to see where they're so squished together. But again, total strikes almost in half, close to it either way. Jesse Crayford saying, woo, nice boys. But I mean, yeah, another big win for Jessica Andrade. She seems to pick up these wins wherever she goes.
She must hit so hard, though. Like, when Jessica Andrade hits people, they react far differently than when anybody else hits them in these weight divisions. Like, at 115, I can't think of another one-punch knockout artist. And yes, this might not have just been one punch, and I guess the Chukagian one, depending on how technical you want to be, it could have been one punch or not, but it's nice to see that her power has been able to translate through these weight divisions. But yeah, for Andrade, it's probably going to suck. No one's going to be signed up to fight her anytime soon, unless it is going to be like a Giga Chikadze trying to call up Max Holloway, like someone way far in the ranks just trying to get a big opportunity, being like, hey, I'll fight Andrade, because for right now, I don't think there's another contender who is ready for a fighter, even like Andrade. And I say that there's a fighter even better than Andrade in this weight division.
Yeah, it really is tricky. I mean, Jessica Andrade is, to me, she's going to be like that number one contender for a long time. And yeah, it really is an awkward spot if you're Andrade. Obviously, I would assume she's going to call out for another title shot. Maybe the first one was a fluke. Maybe there were some extenuating circumstances. But yeah, just a really tricky fight if you're Jessica Andrade and where you go from here. And for Cynthia Calvillo, man, it's a long way down to the bottom of this division. One that can definitely move around quite a bit. Jesse Crayford hitting us up with the super chat.
I hope
certainly appreciate that one, Matt. I'm going to grab myself another beverage because I don't have a ton of water left. But yeah, for our next one, yeah, if you can profile Curtis Blades and Jairzinho Rosenstrike, we know what we're going to get, we think. But I want the unknown. I want the chaos.
So this is the thing about this fight, or these are some of the questions I have about this fight. And please bring it up in the chat if you think I'm crazy, because I've been called it before. I actually think this fight is a lot closer than the odds do suggest. And maybe it's just been a lot of the crazy finishes that we've seen tonight that is somewhat swaying my opinion. But I think Rosenstrike has a good opportunity to spring the outset win. And I just don't like Curtis Blades' chin. That's my big issue. I know it's been checked by Derek Lewis and Francis Ngannou, probably the two biggest power punchers really in the heavyweight division's history, but in boxing, when guys get knocked unconscious, they're never really the same after, and people talk about it all the time. It's a really big talking point of, oh, this guy lost, so will he ever be the same? It's not really something that we talk about in MMA very much, but after that knockout loss to Derek Lewis, I think that's one of those knockouts where you need one performance to kind of get your feet wet. Like, after Michael Bisping fought Dan Henderson the first time and got brutally knocked out, he fought Dennis Kang afterwards, and not a lot of people remember that fight.
St. Pierre and Miquelon's own Dennis Kang.
But he looked phenomenal in that fight and beat the brakes off Dennis Kang. Like, it wasn't even close at all. And Michael Bisping said, like, that knockout really messed me up mentally. And not just, CT and stuff. We're not talking about that. But just, like, confidence-wise. Like, you got to get over that eventually. Think about Ben Simmons missing a free throw or an MMA fighter getting knocked out. Everything comes down to confidence. I sound like a motivational speaker all of a sudden. To me, I worry about Curtis Blades' confidence in this fight because of his very bad knockout losses, and I do think Rosenstrike has that kind of power. I really do think that if he just lands one big shot, he can put anybody to sleep.
Derek Brunson featured on the broadcast. This is a guy that is absolutely trending at 185 pounds. Boss Rutan, Vicente Luque, Benil Dariush, Ali Abdelaziz,
Gilbert Burns, Jessica Ai.
All sorts of famous people and fighters in the background. But I really am excited for this one. Rob G saying what beverage? I went with Coors Bank.
Lucas, no, I don't think it is close. Jairzinho fights well with a high guard. And listen, you could be right. And this is the other thing, too. I don't know how good Curtis Blades' striking really is, because against top-level opponents, he doesn't really use it that much. The only time we've really seen Curtis Blades ever extend himself striking against a top-level competition was Junior Dos Santos, and even saying JDS was a top-level contender at that time is a bit of a stretch, because JDS, the end of his UFC tenure was abrupt, and it was
hard to watch.
It was. There was just a lot of bad losses, one after another. But the reason Blades won that fight was his striking was opened up because JDS dropped his hands because he was worried about the takedown. I still think Blades relies on his wrestling a little bit too much to strike with these top-level strikers at the heavyweight division. Like, Curtis Blades, to me, I've always thought his kryptonite was Stipe Miocic. And some people out there might be saying, oh, well, Francis is. He's already beaten him twice. But Stipe's game is built around beating a guy like Curtis Blades. I'm going to defend all your takedowns. I have exceptional cardio. And then, when you're tired and you can't use your takedowns, I'm going to expose the holes in your stand-up game. Now, I don't think Jairzinho has the grappling to get Curtis Blades to that point. But I do feel like we could see at least the framework for how a fight with Stipe could look.
Well, in this one, the fans at Fight Night Picks over on Instagram, it is all Curtis Blades in this one. 445 total votes for him to 199 for Rosenstrike. That's good for about 69% with Blades. And yeah, again, when you look at this fight, Matt, we kind of consider and factor in the 5-on-in for each fighter. We talk about it a lot. For Jairzinho Rosenstrike, a wild level of competition if you really think about it, because yeah, not that long ago, he's fighting the Junior Albinis of the world, but the 5-on-in, the win over Overeem, the loss to Ngannou, the win over JDS, the loss to Gon, and then his last time out, absolutely mopping the floor with Augusto Sakai, a guy that has that long-range boxing. Like, he's got that pop at the end of his shots, a little bit well-rounded, but maybe not top 10, top 5 material in this division. And if we look at it for Curtis Blades, it's been a long time since he beat old Big Pretty Justin Willis. And then after that, Shamil Durkimov. That was Shamil's last fight until he got knocked out tonight. Junior Dos Santos, Alexander Volkov, and Derek Lewis. To me, out of those 5 fights, the most complete one, maybe the Abdurakhimov fight. But to me, I like that Volkov fight. Even though there were moments where Volkov was in it, I really do like this one. Aaron Moore is going with the popcorn. Craig is saying Rosenstrike is too hesitant. Blade takes him down once around and it's over. Yeah, it really is a difficult one to try and think of, to try and predict, because it seems like one of two outcomes. But maybe we see Curtis Blades go in winging overhand rights and knocking him out. Probably not.
If he goes in winging overhand rights, he himself will be the one getting knocked out. And I feel pretty comfortable with that prediction. They're trying to hype us on the co-main event right now, and I gotta be honest, I'm more excited for Robbie Lawler versus Nick Diaz. I almost said Nate Diaz, but Nick Diaz, you put out the tweet earlier, and it was wild to me because I've never thought about it like this. He skipped the Reebok era. Like, Nick Diaz was like, nah, I'm good. I'll fight right before it starts, and then I'll fight right after it ends. Like, that's the type of layoff that this guy has had in the middle of his career. And I know in boxing, sometimes it happens. Sugar Ray Leonard was able to have a few comebacks. And, we've seen some guys later on in their careers.
Christy Martin.
Sure, yeah, Christy Martin.
Fought Holly Holm.
My problem is that I just worry about Nick Diaz with him receiving damage at a high level against a guy like Robbie Lawler, because it's one thing to spar in the gym and think, okay, now I'm ready to get into a real MMA fight, even though it's been 7 years. It's another thing to get in there like Ben Askren did against Robbie Lawler and get hit by a few big shots and be like, oh, this guy came here to win. That's really the only way I see Robbie Lawler winning, though. I really do think Robbie Lawler is past the hill in his MMA peak, if you will, just because...
Well, yeah.
Well, not even that, though. I worry about his mentality behind fighting because of his lack of aggression now. That's not something you ever really get back. And I know Tyron Woodley threw that one overhand right against Vicente Luque, but like, even Tyron Woodley, the second he lost it, he just lost it. It's not really something that fighters retain later on in their career. It's not like, a pitcher who maybe for 2 weeks their slider's not good, but later on in the season it's working a lot better for them. And MMA doesn't really work like that. but I'm still picking Nick Diaz against my own better judgment.
Yeah, I mean, to me, again, you look at all the pre-fight, and there's a lot of people out there that don't like it, and a lot of people got my tweet earlier on in the week twisted because I said, don't like what I hear. It's a typical Diaz fight week, but it's still odd. Like, it still is weird to see a fighter say the things he said, kind of react to the questions the way that he has. It's not typically what we get. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of people that don't like fighting that fight. I mean, George St. Pierre, chief among them. We've heard that from him tonight. We see it in the build-up and all of that. But, yeah, when I look at that, it just is, it's all weird. And then the gamesmanship, if you want to call it that, about popping up a weight class, I just find it odd as well. Keglin saying, what's the pick for this fight? Let's move it on back over to the fight that we have coming up. I have Blades in this one, and I think, unless you changed your mind, we both do.
I still think Blades is going to win. The problem with Rosenstrike is he hasn't shown me the ability to get back up to his feet after he's been taken down. The initial takedown defense isn't great. I would attribute a lot of his takedown defense to his footwork more than anything. And I do think his footwork can at least keep Blades on the feet for a little while. I don't think Blades is going to just shoot in immediately, because Jairzinho moves so well on the outside. So I do think Blades is going to have to strike his way on the inside at least one point in this fight, and that's going to be Rosenstrike's big opportunity to win.
Rosenstrike putting Suriname on the map in terms of the UFC. You love to see it. We had a fighter last weekend out of Guyana in Carlston Harris pick up a really big win. So neat to see fighters from South America really popping off here. And for the man himself, Jairzinho Rosenstrike, a great team. Conan Silveira, he has his coach as well from Suriname that we've seen just continuously corner him as he fights. But great to see a mixed martial artist mix things up, go to Florida, and get that training with a lot of high-level athletes at American Top Team.
Oh, without a doubt. And they have great heavyweights, too. Like, American Top Team, I know Jairzinho is more in his prime than a lot of the other guys you might think of at American Top Team, but, like, Andre Arlovski's still a good guy to train with every single day. He is a high-level big body to be in the gym with. Same thing with Junior Santos. There's a lot of great fighters down there, so I do think it was a great move for Jairzinho to make. This is such a weird fight, though, because both fighters are
has to happen.
It does have to happen, but both guys are so one-dimensional that we're going to see a very one-sided fight one way or the other. I really don't think we're going to see a Merab Dvalishvili, Marlon Moraes type of fight right now. I think if Blades gets him down, he's keeping him down, and I think if Jairzinho lands that first power shot, he'll probably finish him shortly after.
Yeah, for Jairzinho, I mean, I can see it. It's in the headlines. Flying knee, or, well, maybe not a flying knee.
1-2
knee
left
off
head
a kick.
Oh.
Like, yeah, there's so many different possibilities there for Blades. TKO on the ground, just like a lot of people are saying over there in the comments section. I mean, hey, you get this guy down, you throw all of those big-time elbows, and boom goes the dynamite. Rob G saying he has the third highest takedown defense in UFC history, though. Who are you going with on that one, Rob? You gotta let me know.
Here's the problem. If I've seen you with my own eyes get taken down multiple times by Alistair Overeem, who, yes, is a good grappler and a very underrated one at that, that concerns me if you're about to fight Curtis Blades, who trains with Alistair Overeem, or who has trained with him in the past. And you got taken down by Junior Albini. That's a problem. Like, I don't care how much... You could train wrestling every single day from the day of that fight until today. You won't be as good as Curtis Blades is at just wrestling, because that's what he's done for his whole entire life. So I'm a big believer in it, and I'm kind of glad we saw Marlon do it. You can back me up on this, because I said it before we started filming. If you know you're going to get taken down, why not just throw power shots anyways? Like, it's going to happen. You might as well try to throw the power shots to knock your opponent out. We saw Marlon go, hey, he's probably going to shoot for a takedown. I'm going to let my hands go. And if he landed one more clean shot, he probably could have got the knockout win. So I do think if Jairzinho comes into this fight very aggressive, maybe pushes Blades back, catches him off guard, he might be able to get a very quick win. But again, I know I'm selling this as a Jairzinho Rosenstrike pick. I still think Curtis Blades is going to be able to grind him, get him down to the ground, and probably finish him with elbows.
Should be a great fight that we have coming up here. Matt, I'm going to throw it way off the board with my next question. I mean, I have zero idea what Curtis Blades' walkout song is at this point. Somebody could enlighten me. What's that?
It's the Mortal Kombat theme.
Oh, yeah, he always walks out with Mortal Kombat. You're right. It's kind of, I don't know. I don't like it. But
I kind of like it.
If you could pick a walkout song, would you pick one that would hype you up? Would you pick one that would get the crowd into it? Or would you just pick one that's way off the wall, like Cody Brundage when he walked out to 9-5 before he came into the UFC?
Honestly, I wish you would give me more time to think about this, because it is a great question. I've always liked, and I don't want to pick one that someone's already used, but I think we both can agree that there's like a top 3 for walkout songs. There's Return to the Mac by Anthony Smith, or not by Anthony Smith, but when Anthony Smith
Morrison.
by Mark Morrison. But Anthony Smith, Return to the Mac. I always like Get Down by Nas as Dustin Poirier's walkout song. I always think that's a pretty good one. I'm not a big fan of like the Scarface for Jorge Masvidal, you know, like I kind of like the Mortal Kombat thing for Curtis Blades because that was him even before he was ranked, you know. It's not like, oh, he then became that once the movie came out in theaters. Like Curtis Blades has been Mortal Kombat Curtis Blades for a very long time now. So for me, I think it is kind of fitting. Why? Uno reverse card, Craig. What would your top 3 be?
Escapade by Janet Jackson, All About You by Tupac, and especially with the part with Nate Dogg. Every other city we go. Every other video, no matter where I go, I see the same. And the last time I sang that, it was for Gerald Mearshart, Mahmoud Muradov, and look what Gerald did in that fight. But we get the particulars on this one. Rosenstrike build is 6'2", but that's a Fausto Carmona 6'2" if I've ever seen one. Reach advantage, weight advantage, and really the age or edge in youth goes over to Curtis Blades. In the comment section, Jake MMA fan saying, AJ walked out to No Easy Way Out from the Rocky soundtrack. That was sweet. That fight was sweet.
That was a great fight.
That was an amazing fight. I'm definitely going to go back and watch it tomorrow. Like, I had so much fun watching that fight. Usyk's, like, I admit this, and I say this on Early Stoppage all the time. I am the biggest casual boxing fan. I'm there for the Canelo fights. I'm there for when Usyk fights. I like Crusher Kovalev. Like, there's some other guys out there.
There's some guys.
Terrence Crawford,
Canelo.
Spence. Like, there's some guys that I look for, and I make sure that I watch those fights. But I've been riding with Usyk for a long time, and it was great to see him win, and now it throws a wrench into the heavyweight plans.
No, it's kind of cool that we witnessed history today. You now cannot tell the story of boxing without talking about Alexander Usyk, and that wasn't really something you had to say before today. Now, yes, he was the undisputed cruiserweight title, or cruiserweight champion, and he was the first unified cruiserweight champion. Goodness, this is tough. During the 4-belt era, which is really important. But until you have that heavyweight gold, nobody really cares. And the fact that he can go from being the undisputed champion, which in boxing is something that never happens because there's so many belts, and then go up and become heavyweight champion, like, it's just such a wild accomplishment.
In the comments section, quick before the starts, Christopher asking if it's a 5-round fight. This one's a 3-rounder. You can sync up with us, and I suggest that you do because there's going to be a lag. That's how the YouTubes work. I'm going to hit the 5-minute timer as the round starts, and I can pause it if there are any odd sequences that need pausing. Rosenstrike taking on Blades, getting ready for the first round between these two heavyweights. A veritable clash of styles. And right out of the gate, Jairzinho Rosenstrike taking center of the octagon.
I think Cruz by Florida Georgia Line and Nelly would be kind of funny to walk out to.
Ooh, big shot for both guys there. Curtis Blades getting hit.
And that's the thing about Rosenstrike. If you're aggressive early, you're probably going to get taken down no matter what. So you might as well just speed up the process. Test your takedown defense now.
Matt the Mick saying my wife would put your YouTube channel on for me. I appreciate y'all. Matt the Mick, I appreciate you too. Curtis Blades got his hands moving a little bit. Are you surprised 30 seconds in that he hasn't gone for a takedown?
So Merab Dvalishvili, I think I set the odds at minus 270 for him to shoot in the first minute. Now, it took him 70 seconds, not 60 to finally do it. I thought Blades would have finally shot, but he does look comfortable on the feet so far, so it will be really interesting to see when he does decide to make that first initial takedown attempt.
Do not like Curtis Blades comfortable on the feet. That is a scary thing.
But I would say scary in a positive way, though. Like, if Curtis Blades ever gets to the point where his striking is at the level of his wrestling, then
gets
he
the
runs
first
over
takedown
everybody.
incredibly easily on the trip up against the fence. 3 minutes and 53 seconds remaining in the round, and it's Blades working from side control with Rosenstrike back to the mat. Now, he is close to the fence, and that's something that the commentary teams, I'd say in the last 6 months or so, they've really accentuated fighters using the cage as a tool, whereas in the past, the top fighter, the dominant fighter, would try and use that to their advantage. So it is neat to see the evolution of the game, as it were.
I would say the last, 6 years, people have been using the cage to get... Like, Michael Bisping was the first person to cage walk.
More of a conversation than it ever used to be. And for Curtis Blades, a ton of time to work in a great position, throwing those classic 2009 knees from side control. We've seen that a couple of times tonight. Dan Hooker threw some knees when he was in top control. A lot of very neat things that we've seen on this night, including Matt Semmelsberger probably ruining a guy's UFC career. You had a crazy finish from Rob Dvalishvili that probably just absolutely wrote the book on Marlon Moraes' UFC Tenure, I don't know how you come back from that one, but Curtis Blades doing a lot of great work here. Rosenstrike's starting to pop back up, though.
This isn't a good spot, though. He's only kind of set up on half his base, and he's trying to use the cage, but the problem is Blades is now starting to take his back, and this is interesting. Blades not really a back taker, never really has been. Normally uses this as a chance to break down the base of his opponent and start to get on top, but he's doing a good job just smothering Rosenstrike and really making him feel his weight right now.
Yeah, Blades doing a great job. We're halfway through this first round. Blades in a dominant spot with Rosenstrike, one knee on the canvas, 1 foot flat, and he's absorbing a lot of damage from these short strikes out of Blades. Now he wraps the old baseball grip up. He's only got one hand now for Blades. Rosenstrike back up to his feet.
I guess. Again, this is all bad for Rosenstrike so far. Like, he's eating a bunch of elbows. He got taken down with the first takedown attempt. For Rosenstrike, he did actually show the ability to get back up to his feet, which I didn't think he was going to be able to do, but I still don't like the initial takedown defense from Rosenstrike.
Rosenstrike here, time to work. Blades starting to throw the hands, and he had a pretty good feint when he did go in there earlier on. Mark Smith warning Curtis Blades, the fingers outstretched. And yeah, that's always a tricky thing, especially in today's day and age. You'd love to see some curved gloves out of the old UFC.
It would be really nice too. Every other organization in the world, I'm pretty sure, has them except for the UFC at this point. So you would think the global leader in MMA would finally adopt a superior glove.
One thing to note is Curtis Blades just did something that Matt and I joked about when Anthony Joshua was fighting Usyk. The fact that he threw out those little TJ Dillashaw feints is what I call them, but threw that hand out there, just a little bit of misdirection. Doing it again here. A couple of different looks, starting to land the jab is Blades against Rosenstrike. Minute and 5 seconds remaining in our first round. We had that early initial blitz of, maybe not blitz, but Rosenstrike taking the center of the cage. Then he started to land some really good strikes in combination. Now he's just kind of in a bit of a holding pattern here.
Well, the thing about Rosen, this is his style, though. He's never been a guy who just rushes forward, tries to beat you with his volume. He will try to wait and counter you on the back foot, and once he does land that initial shot and starts to flurry after that, that's when he is at his most dangerous. The thing about Blades is, Blades has a good job defensively of at least keeping his hands up. The best way to defend an overhand right isn't always to just put your hands up. Throw a jab, because when your jab hand is out, that overhand is going to catch your arm a lot of the times. Now, yes, sometimes it can loop over, but if you're smart, you can defend that way, and Curtis Blades does a good job with that. He at least keeps his hands up when he is throwing his own shots, so it's hard for his opponents to get around his guard.
15 seconds remaining. Really nice right hand there. It looks like it kind of glances for Rosenstrike. But yeah, I mean, so far in this round, we're under 10 seconds remaining. Rosenstrike trying to go and win the round here. Blade sticking his fingers out, and he has to watch for that. I anticipate a warning there from Mark Smith at the end of the round. Looks like we might get one. Maybe we won't. Who knows? Oh yeah, we're getting a warning there from Mark Smith. He does that again. We end up with an eye poke, and I have to pause this sucker. And yeah, we're going to lose a point. And we saw that. Who was it last week? Alateng Lee when he was taking on Gustavo Lopez. We're not playing around here. We're taking points. But Matt, we have a look at the overall round. Curtis Blades doubling up on the strikes compared to Rosenstrike. It was from that top position. It was from that control. But good on Rosenstrike to get back up to his feet. That's not an easy thing to do against such a credentialed wrestler like Curtis Blades.
I would still say round one Curtis Blades without doubt, though. That's the thing. And my issue is Rosenstrike's takedown defense isn't that great. Like, it just isn't. I don't care what the stats are. If you watch it for MMA sense, it doesn't pass the eye test. And that's really the issue with Rosenstrike. The one-dimensional aspect of his game is always going to hurt him. Like, we've seen this style be implemented against him in the past, and he hasn't been able to fix this hole in his game. Like, Marcin Tybura could probably do this exact same thing to a guy like Rosenstrike.
And maybe that's the fight to make. I mean, Rosenstrike loses this one to Blades. You bring in old Marcin Tybura, but for Blades, he's fighting for gold, I would assume, or maybe a shot at Stipe Miocic. There's a lot of different fights.
I don't think Curtis Blades is anywhere near a title shot. I really don't. I think after the Derek Lewis loss, the UFC doesn't really care about it that much anymore. They've got guys like Chris Daukaus and Tom Aspinall to promote near the top of the division, so I don't think they need to always go back to Curtis Blades.
Couple of big left hands landing there for Rosenstrike, and they show those live odds with Blades on -700, but you know that Rosenstrike has that knockout power, and Curtis Blades did get knocked out in that second round against Derek Lewis, so always something to keep on your mind. The scores, yeah, I mean, for both of us, a 10-9 for Blades there.
It's interesting. Not a lot of damage on either guy so far, but it does seem like the right eye of Blades is swelling a little bit just from some of the left hands that have got through from Rosenstrike. But when Rosenstrike's letting his hands go, they have seemed to land so far.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we're closing in on a minute in so far to our second round. Thanks again so much to everybody who's tuned in. Nice low kick there from Curtis Blades. Kickboxer, Curtis Blades.
He should be doing less of it, though. Like, Curtis Blades at his best is the guy who fought Shamil Abdurakhimov. Go 17 for 27 on your takedown attempts and just force the person to quit under your immense cardio and wrestling advantage.
Rosenstrike looking for his opportunity, possibility of the counter. We've got Blades who switched his stances quite a bit so far in this fight. Blades, again, sticking those fingers out there. Gonna have to get, Mark Smith back in there. Obviously gave the warning at the end of the first round.
But I don't think that one was the same, though. That one he had just kind of like circled out and then put his hands in. I don't really think that was a close eye poke.
Bit of a feeling out process here. Again, both of these guys rank so high up in this division. We're top 10. We're talking about guys that have fought the best of the best. Obviously for Rosenstrike, the quick loss to Ngannou. For Blades, he features 2 of those on his record. And obviously the big loss to Derek Lewis the last time out. But I mean, Blades, again, throwing a nice low kick. I mean, going in there, striking with Rosenstrike, you have to have that confidence, or that probably inspires confidence for Blades, but it makes me nervous. It makes me very nervous.
As it should. Now, he kind of went for a takedown attempt. Rosenstrike did do a good job getting his hips back. But for Blades, I'm really surprised we haven't seen more volume takedowns out of him. That kind of has been the story throughout his UFC tenure, and especially against top-level strikers.
Rosenstrike doing a good job in those in-betweens, too. He's starting to land a little bit more. Now, obviously, flat-footed. They talked about that earlier on in the broadcast with a fighter like Tyler Santos, who is going to utilize that Muay Thai, wants to have a lot of pop in her shots. For Rosenstrike, a lot of plant and throw. Really faked right hand there, and I don't even think Blades saw that.
But still, for a guy who does plant, he is exceptionally quick. That's the thing that sets Jairzinho apart from a lot of other just standard striking heavyweights. He does have the hand speed to go along with his technique, and it is a great point, though. Like, he does really, plant down and throw everything behind him, but he doesn't sacrifice speed in pursuit of power.
2 minutes and 6 seconds remaining, an odd number to go with, but it's what I went with nonetheless in our second round. This one a 3-rounder. The other 3 fights that we have coming up on the rest of this card, Diaz, Lawler, and the 2 title fights, those are 5-rounders, one of those featured 5-rounders in the rematch, 17 years in the making. But for Blades, yeah, I mean, a striking heavy approach in the second round. This one's been relatively close. I give the edge so far to Rosenstrike, but I mean, one big moment could sway the round. It really could.
Oh, without a doubt. And again, we saw the one takedown Blades was able to get in that first round. There was not a lot of defense from Rosenstrike. So let's say Blades gets the takedown with a minute left in the round. That could be enough to ice
big
it,
knee there from Rosenstrike.
Yeah,
and I think he's got Blades.
I don't know. I think that caught him more in the chest than anything. But
you don't see a lot of guys defending a takedown with a big knee, but Rosenstrike was able to do so there. Blades ultimately gets the second takedown that he attempts. He's got about 1:13 to work. He's in Rosenstrike's guard. Rosenstrike trying to strike himself out of this one, trying to peel back the face of Blades, really get out of damage here.
I like the can opener from Curtis Blades there, trying to open up that guard of Rosenstrike. And the thing about Blades, finally he passed the open guard, or the full guard of Rosenstrike. Blades is one of those guys who is more than happy to sit in the guard of his opponent, just kind of hammer away from there. I've always thought Fabricio Verdum would kind of be the nightmarish type of opponent for Curtis Blades just because of his abilities to submit guys from his guard, but it's nice to see Blades pass that full guard and then go into half guard to try to get more damaging strikes.
With Blades, he's got the forearm in position there. I mean, the last forearm choke I ever saw was Alexander Romanov. It's not something you see very often. It's a very meathead move. And Alexander Romanov, one of those guys. But absolutely love watching that guy fight. Blades working here from the half guard. 2 rounds in the books nearly. And I mean, for Blades, he's got about 20 seconds remaining here. This round's really close. I mean, Blades is going to get the top control out of this one, but I'd actually score the round. If it ended right now, 10 seconds remaining, I've got it for Rosenstrike.
I don't think Rosenstrike did enough. I really don't. He had the one moment where he landed one single good strike, but other than that, I think Blades is more or less in control of this fight. He landed good leg kicks throughout the middle of this round, and the takedown was nice too, but he does have some swelling around that right eye.
Ooh, it's really swollen there. You're going to get that cold compress on it. Maybe the possibility that the doctor has a look at it, but...
and that was the same eye that Francis closed up when he beat him the first time.
Yeah, Blades really having a tough time there. Looks like he's still able to blink, and as long as he can blink at the start of the round, that's all you need to see, more than likely. But yeah, he's got a tough task ahead of him. Really want to see what people are thinking here. Jesse saying, pretty sure I'm going to lose $50. LOL. But yeah, that knee connecting with the chin of Blades as he went for that double leg. Great opportunity for Rosenstrike. Definitely the biggest move of the round.
I would say so without a doubt. It was definitely the most damaging strike, I'd argue, really, of the whole entire fight, but I still feel like the overall accumulation of numbers from Blades was enough to give him that round.
All right, Matt, we'll get set for our third and final round. Again, want to thank everybody for tuning in so far. Third round of our heavyweight fight that is on this main card. And I mean, it's the only one at heavyweight that we're going to get up here. Our other heavyweight fight was on this card. Holy smokes.
Oh my goodness.
Daukaus Abdurakhimov, what a wild one. But yeah, we've got a tight one here. All depends on what you had in that second round, because it was a tight one. Did you have it for Blades? Did you have it for Rosenstrike? First round, pretty cut and dry. In this third round, I would have been eager to hear what the corner had to say to Blades as he was getting his eye kind of worked on a little bit. And for Rosenstrike as well, you have those two influences in your corner of your original guy, out of Suriname. You've got the ATT guys as well. So it'll be interesting to see what we get into this round. 30 seconds in so far. Bit of a flurry from both guys. And yeah, I mean, for Rosenstrike, kind of using your advice, so to speak. Just fight fire with fire. And if the guy's going to go for a takedown, land a power shot.
I don't do this often, Craig, but every now and then I'd like to think I know something about MMA. It's just like, I don't know why this isn't something more people don't do, though. If you know you're fighting an opponent who goes for a high volume of takedowns and you have questionable takedown defense, you're going to get taken down at some point throughout the fight. Why not just speed up the process, I guess. There's no sense figuring out if your takedown defense is good enough 4 minutes into the third round. You might as well just test it early, see what you can do, and try to land a big strike. That's always been my feeling about it.
I mean, Blades in here, tossing out the jab, switching stances. Rosenstrike kind of got to get on that gas pedal, but we've seen that from him. He has that late surge. He had that against Overeem in a fight that he was losing, and he's obviously the better striker than Blades, who has shown some improvements in this fight. You got to give credit where it's due.
It's just Curtis Blades is so big. That's the thing. Like, his strikes have such a long range that they're able to cover, but the thing about Rosenstrike, all those strikes from his left side are going to be that much harder for Blades to see now, and we know Rosenstrike has that great left high kick. He used that against Albini. He has a great overhand left. He destroyed Augusto Sakai with that. So those are some of his primary attacks that could land on Blades now. But I'm kind of surprised we haven't seen Blades with this damage on his face go for a takedown as he does now.
And a big flip there, and Rosenstrike still lands on his back. And that was a weird one. Blades went all the way across. He almost had his hands on his legs and just pushed him.
This is what I talk about when I say I don't like the takedown defense of Jairzinho. He gets his feet square. You never want your feet square in any sport ever.
Give him the old Olay.
But I don't care if it's baseball. I don't care if it's like, no matter what sport you're in, this is never your most solid stance.
You've got Blades who kind of straightens up, almost looked like he was going to stack guard, and now he's just standing on top of Rosenstrike. Mark Smith is in play, and he's close. Rosenstrike looking to land a bottom hammer fist, and I mean, hey, worked for Randy Brown. Worked against them.
It did.
It really did. Eric saying, there we go. D-Nice saying, let's go, boys. And Eric saying, we're 90 seconds in, and Blade hasn't attempted a takedown. Yeah, exactly. There we go. But Kevin E. making a good point. It's tough mentally to accept that you're going to have to get taken down. And now we have Blades working from half guard. Rosenstrike just trying his darndest to get back up to his feet. 2 minutes and 5 seconds remaining in our third round here.
It's been a fairly back and forth fight. Both guys have had good opportunities in this one. Jairzinho's landed a few big shots, but I still feel like as a whole, Curtis Blades is the one that's in control. I was a little worried about the damage of his eye in between rounds, and I don't just mean I was worried about the doctor stopping it. I was worried just about like the doubt and whatnot, because if you know that eye has been compromised in the past, you've lost to Francis Ngannou, like those are some of the doubt that starts to creep in, but it's nice to see Blades really rally in this third round, even though he is somewhat compromised.
A minute and 35 seconds remaining. Blades absolutely in control on top in this third round. And yeah, I mean, 50-50 in the striking in the third round, but again, with this takedown, with that top control, obviously it's something that kind of, if you're looking at the judging criteria, it's not going to be first, or it's not going to be top of mind. Damage, that's going to be your big one. And then in terms of volume, and then you go down from there. But yeah, Blades just kind of putting on a classic stamp on a Blades fight in this third round here so far.
Unless Rosenstrike's able to pull an Alistair Overeem type of a comeback like he did in that fight, I think Blades is probably on his way to a unanimous decision right now.
JAMWNGONX. Have a look down in the description. That is sarcasm. I'm sorry, pal. But yeah, 50 seconds remaining here, and you've got Curtis Blades in a dominant position in half guard. Just continues to rain down some shots. Mikey Sports, what's going on? Is that Dustin May?
What's up, Mikey Sports?
I can't tell what your picture is. Is that an Expos hat? Or is it May? It's hard to tell. Matt the Mix saying, all right, Shania Twain.
So this brings up the question, who does Curtis Blaydes fight next? Because he's lost so badly to the champion. He's lost to the number, 4 contender, Derek Lewis now, and that's the loss that really hurts Curtis Blaydes moving forward. I think Derek Lewis is one of those fighters who, he's going to have like a 20% chance to knock out everybody, and you just kind of spin the wheel at that. You know what I mean? Like, if it lands, it lands, but if not, he's going to look pretty bad. With Curtis Blaydes, that loss might hold him back, and that's why I don't think Curtis Blaydes is going to get a title shot next, or even like a title eliminator. I really do think Blaydes is going to have to fight 15 all the way up to number 1 if he does want another crack at the belt, or even his first crack at the belt, because A, I doubt the UFC really enjoys his style. B, him and Dana White haven't traditionally always got along, or him and the UFC brass will say, we will attach names to it. So I think Blaydes might have trouble moving forward, just getting opponents trying to build his name back up to being a title challenger.
Curtis Blaydes is a Bellator heavyweight champ for a long time.
He could be Corey Anderson.
Yeah, like Curtis Blaydes, I'd like to see him fight a yoked up Phil Davis at 265.
He'd kill him, Craig.
That'd be a great fight. Like, to me, it's just tough when you try and market a wrestler. And it's funny because we talked about it before this fight happened. You see Mark Coleman kind of sitting off in the background. And he was an OG stalwart. And he came back and he had the 2 fights, one in Pride and one in the UFC against Shogun.
And he's sober now. Good job, Mark Coleman. You're doing great, buddy.
I really like Mark Coleman.
So do I.
But, yeah, I mean, for Curtis Blaydes, it's just tough as a road forward. Again, in terms of the the scoring for this one, I gave the second round to Rosenstrike, but really it's either 30-27 Blaydes or 29-28 for Blaydes. You're splitting hairs. But, Blaydes definitely won this one. Let's have a look at the numbers. Any final thoughts on this fight? I mean, obviously, total strike numbers favor Blaydes. I'm going to throw this question at you as we await the decision. What the heck is next for Rosenstrike? Like Tom Aspinall? Because apparently Chris Daukaus doesn't want to fight him.
So I actually think there's more opponents for Jairzinho now than there are for Curtis Blaydes. Because the only people that they're going to offer Curtis Blaydes right now are unranked heavyweights, really dangerous guys who are like 10 to 15, or they're just going to offer him like Derek Lewis again, and he'll probably decline it, and that'll be a whole kerfuffle in the media. But Jairzinho at least has other unranked contenders that he can probably knock out to give himself another opportunity against the elite. Because I don't think Rosenstrike himself is elite. I think he would be the last fighter on the good marker before you hit great. So I do think that there's a lot of other fun fights out there for Rosenstrike. I just don't know if they're against the top 5 in the division.
Yeah, I mean, Jesse Crayford going with the old, we're behind, but that's just the way that it works with YouTube, Jesse. Like, there's not a whole heck of a lot that I can do there. There's always going to be a lag the way she goes. You just got to pause it on your end. Hang out with everybody. You get it, though. Kevin E. saying Blaydes has to fight down next. Doesn't make sense to fight up. It's too difficult.
Marcin Tybura, let's do it.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love a Marcin fight. That'd be great. Most heavyweight wins from 2016 to present. Lewis, Ngannou, and Blaydes, guys that are always up at the top. Hey, I want to say thanks to everybody so far that has tuned in. Jesse Crayford saying a fight night. Yeah, I mean, a fight night main event in, like, Utica. Remember that? That was a great card. But, yeah, it is tough to try and matchmake for him. Kevin E. saying, I think Jairzinho gets a fun striker next. Yeah, an Aspinall, a Daukaus, so on and so forth. I think Daukaus mops the floor with him.
Probably. I think Daukaus could probably beat both these. Here's the thing, and we've talked about this before. Heavyweight contenders come in batches of 2. I don't really know why, but it just seems to happen. Derek Lewis and Francis Ngannou rose through the ranks together. Jairzinho and Cyril Gane rose through the ranks together. And right now, we have Chris Daukaus and
there he
Tom
is,
Aspinall.
Mark Coleman.
Good for him. I'm glad he's doing well. He's been through a lot. So, it will be really interesting to see what they do moving forward. But heavyweights in this weird logjam. Like, what the hell's Stipe going to do next? Who's fighting for the title next? Are we going to get that unification? It's just a really weird division right now that is sort of stagnant near the top. So I honestly think both guys are probably going to be sitting on the shelf for like 8 months.
Yeah, it really is a difficult one. Over in the comments section, Matt the Mix saying no one's manlier than Mel Gibson. I mean, he knows what women want. So there's that. Quite the movie there. We get a little bit of a preview for Brandon Moreno's next title defense. What an interesting fight he has coming up.
Brandon Moreno shows that yesterday doesn't... I I don't even know. Like, Brandon Moreno just shows that if you don't give up, you're going to get to where you're going eventually. And yeah, it's going to take a lot of hard work, and there's going to be some luck involved too. But if you just stay dedicated to your dream over time, then you might be able to accomplish it. And I know I sound a lot like Robin Black right now, but I really do think that's like the big message behind Brandon Moreno, is you can go from being at the lowest point of your life, cut from the company that you think is going to be your future, and just being another guy in the regional scene, to then being a UFC champion and completely changing your family's life for their whole future. So in Brandon Moreno, you not only see a fighter who's we've really seen his progression throughout the UFC, you're seeing someone who finally has gotten their game all tied together. The striking is caught up with the grappling, which is caught up with the cardio. And it's weird that they're doing the Figueiredo trilogy immediately. Personally, after their second fight, I'd like to see Figueiredo go in there with Pantoja again. That'd be a great fight. That was a fight of the night the first time out, so I know personally I'd love to see that again. So I'm a little surprised that they're making it, but I think it's going to be a great fight.
Yeah, it definitely should. And I mean, listen, Pantoja, obviously more than deserving of the shot, but Pantoja's in the same spot that TJ Dillashaw is.
Even Askarov.
They don't, Askarov, but Pantoja and Dillashaw, they don't control their destinies due to injury. So that's really the reason why you won't see a title fight there, or where Aljamain Sterling's out, you won't see TJ kind of insert himself into that conversation, taking on Piotr Jan. So that's why you got to look to the Rob Fonts. And even the Corey Sandhagens, who I thought he beat TJ, but now that conversation's around that fight, so that really kind of talks about that one. Matt the Mick, yeah, I'm 27, just turned 27, buying a house on Monday, I'm married. There's all sorts of different things to talk about, all kinds of moves being made, but that is the other thing. For the 105 or so people that are tuning in right now, Fight Night Picks and this studio that you see before us, it is not going to be like that for much longer.
No, we have a lot of exciting stuff coming in the near future, and it's going to be a lot easier for us to film our videos now. So before, it was kind of a pain depending on how bad the pandemic was in our area of the world. But
which it's bad now.
Which it is bad right now. But the good news is yeah, we're going to be closer. We're going to be able to pump out a lot of new great content.
It's like a Team 10 house.
It really is. Like, Fight Night Nation is now a house almost. So, yeah, it's going to be an exciting
15-minute card breaks is going to blow up. It's just going to be great.
Yeah, we have a lot of exciting stuff in the future. So for the 106 hardcores who are managing to stay up this late and prefer listening to us over Daniel Cormier, Paul Felder, and John Anik, yeah, we've got a lot of cool stuff on the go.
Matt, Nick Diaz is taking on Robbie Lawler in a rematch that you didn't know you needed, but you wanted. And listen, I have to say this. I mean, you saw it on the marquee, on the bill. You saw it in the thumbnail. What did I go with in the middle for this one?
What?
I went with Lawler and Diaz in the middle the big part of this thumbnail. And then I went with Ortega, Volkanovski, and Shevchenko. And Murphy and Matt, the UFC kind of did the same thing, and they did almost the same picture from embedded 5 to embedded 6.
That was weird.
It was weird, but listen, the needle mover this weekend obviously is Nick Diaz in his return. A little bit of an oddity and a little bit of a surprise that we do get him, but he showed up, and he's here at the arena, so hopefully he makes the walk.
What were you doing in 2003? I was in Mrs. Hudson's kindergarten class at a school that no longer exists.
I was 4 years older, so yeah.
So just, like, Nick Diaz and Robbie Lawler, if they had a conversation with someone in 2003, then they didn't see that person until a week ago, and they were like, hey, what are you up to? Robbie Lawler's answer would still be, I'm fighting Nick Diaz next week. Like, they're about this life. And that's the thing about Robbie Lawler. Like, I'm still excited for this fight because of what Robbie Lawler has accomplished throughout his career. You have to remember, this is a guy who was cut from the UFC, very similar to a Brandon Moreno, but it's not like he had the success Moreno had outside the UFC, because people forget, Moreno gets cut, immediately becomes LFA champion, gets re-signed, everything ends up very happy for him. Robbie Lawler becomes the OG underground king. Goes through promotions, different weight classes, fights in a ring, fights in a cage. Like, Robbie Lawler's been around, round. Robbie Lawler's been around. And that's why I'm excited for this fight to finally come together. Because if anybody can go back and have one of those classic, like, throwback performances, I think it's Robbie Lawler. If someone went up to Robbie Lawler today and said, hey, this is your last chance in the UFC to do something memorable, I can almost guarantee you Robbie Lawler is going to make every single second count in that cage, and that's why I think this fight should be great.
Let's go over to the comments section, Matt. Mike Watkins saying, let's go, Robbie. Mario is saying, I like Diaz, but way too long away. Californian would be sick if Diaz won. Plot twist from Eric saying, these guys aren't really from Canada. That was a great comment out there earlier, and if anybody saw it on my Twitter, I was kind of pleasantly surprised on that one. Saying that we were ignorant Americans because we talk too much. Maybe we should put the pick out there at the start of the video. And listen, for the 94 of you that are here right now, we're going to do that with one of the videos next week, and it's going to blow people's minds. It's going to screw them right up. And yeah, I'm just letting you know that right now. Tovan saying, my nerves are getting to me. He was pumping this out on Twitter. Make sure you go give him a follow. I'll give you his Twitter handle. It's going to take me a couple of seconds here. AEOXIS, which is easily seen up there on his YouTube as well. Make sure you check him out. One of the most talented and unique guys out there in MMA right now, and it's content that I do not miss. Like, there's a few people I have out there, and he's definitely one of them.
Without a doubt. I'm so excited for this fight. I'm sorry. Robbie Lawler, as he gets set to go into the cage. This is the question I wanted to bring up to you. With the weight change, I thought this was going to become a 3-round fight, but this is still a 5-round contest, correct?
Yeah, it is.
Like, this isn't a Yoel Romero after the 3rd round, like, oh, wait, there's not 2 more. Because that was the one thing I thought about this fight. I thought, okay, if they're making Robbie Lawler fight Nick Diaz at middleweight, at least they're going to cut 2 rounds off of it and make this a 3-round fight. But Robbie Lawler must just be the most game person on the face of the planet Earth, because Dana White went up to him and said, hey, you want to fight at 185 pounds? And they asked Robbie Lawler, they go, what did you think? And Robbie Lawler says, well, I already put in the hard work, and it doesn't really matter anyways. We were going to fight, so I didn't really think it mattered. That's pretty cool, because most other guys who have accomplished what Robbie Lawler has accomplished in his career would be divas about it. They would ask for just blue Skittles in the locker room, and they would be able to get away with acting like that. But Robbie Lawler is who you think of when you think of one of those blood and guts fighters. Like, blue-collar, hard-working. Like, Robbie Lawler is all those things, and I think that's why he's been such a fan favorite throughout the last decade.
Robbie Lawler's last fight at middleweight was in Strikeforce. It was a card headlined by Luke Rockhold when he took on Matt. Do you know who it is?
Tim Kennedy?
Tim Kennedy, and for Lawler, he lost to
Jacare by head and arm
Lorenz Larkin.
Really?
He lost to
By
Lorenz
decision,
Larkin,
yes.
and if you look at it for Robbie Lawler, the 5-on-in, he beat Donald Cerrone 4 years ago. That was his last win. He lost to RDA in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, Ben Askren, Colby Covington, and Neil Magny. Again, those are really big names. Rob G hitting us up in the super chat saying, is there any chance Diaz could get done similar to Holyfield after being out for so long? It could happen. Brandon Klein, appreciate you for tuning in as well. But
It could happen, but the difference is that Evander Holyfield, A, shouldn't be allowed to compete, and B, is 60 years old. No, it's different.
Nick Diaz Academy's own Martin Sano got finished like, and
that's
Holyfield.
fine and dandy. The difference is that Evander Holyfield was an old man who has taken a lot of damage throughout his life. So you have to think, 59-year-old Evander Holyfield is like 78 years old. And Evander Holyfield had been denied a license to box because of diminishing performances and subpar, I don't know what the exact term is, but subpar performance on his mental test. That means you shouldn't be allowed to fight no matter what the circumstances
Just
are.
an exhibition.
Nick Diaz smoked weed and they took his license away, and it's one of the dumbest things ever. Like, with Nick Diaz, it's more than just the layoff, and that's been the thing. For me, I'll be really interested to see not just what happens in this fight, but do you think Nick Diaz could have, like Nick Diaz had against Anthony Pettis with his post-fight? Do you think there's a big fish out there for Nick Diaz to go after if he does look impressive?
Usman.
I don't think they give him that fight. I think Usman flatlines.
I do too. I think if Nick Diaz wins this fight, he is going to campaign so hard because he has already. And this has the big fight feels. I think if he does, I mean, boom, you sold this pay-per-view. This is the Nick Diaz pay-per-view.
This is my issue with that, though. Leon Edwards buries him. I know that's an aggressive term, but I'm going to use it.
Almost lost to his brother.
Jorge Masvidal probably does the same thing, and Usman's better than both those guys by a wide margin. My issue with Nick Diaz is I just don't know what they do.
Trying to walk into the cage with a shirt on.
I just never really know what to do with fighters who are these big-level stars in this stage of their career, because you know they're always going to get big-name opponents because they themselves are a big star. It's always weird to see where in the division those names rank up, because for Nick Diaz, Listen, they would have given him Robbie Lawler if Robbie Lawler was still ranked number 3 in the division or if he's unranked like he is now. It really was just the name associated with it, and that's what I always think of when I think about like the Diaz brothers and McGregor. I never think of just the rankings and the belts. I always put them in their own like money weight division.
Answer some of the questions over there in the comment section. This is the weirdest walkout I've seen in my entire life.
Does Canada have a Florida? Kind of. It's called Newfoundland.
I was gonna say Newfoundland, but the more I thought about it,
it's nice though.
It's probably British Columbia because there's a rainforest there, and there's Vancouver, and then there's Vancouver Island.
Canada's
it's either that,
great though, guys. I gotta say,
it's that or Newfoundland. Darren saying, as a new fan of the UFC, I have zero interest in this fight. Darren,
really?
I understand, but man, I am amped. I'm so amped. Like this gets me going because it's more competitive than some of the old man boxing fights, and I got amped for Roy Jones Jr. and Mike Tyson. But for this one, it's like, okay, you understand where these guys are at in their career. Age-wise, they're close. One guy has the edge because he did get the win. Yes, he's been out for 6 years. There's so many different question marks. But I think this is such a great one. We get the particulars on this one. Lawler, a little bit older. Diaz, a little bit taller. Wish it was a baller. And he has a reach advantage. So I love this one.
Do you know what I think could be a fun, weird fight next? And I don't think they're going to do it, but hear me out. I guess he's already matched up.
Freelance fought Robbie Lawler 21 years ago in Davenport. Matt, I've been to Davenport, Iowa. I've also been to Dubuque. I've been to Moline. And you can probably realize why I was there if you deduce why I was there. But Matt, we get the particulars. Again, former UFC welterweight champ, that is Robbie Lawler. Former Elite XC and Strikeforce. You rarely see those names out there.
You barely react that guy fought Robbie Lawler.
Oh, it's wild.
That's insane to me.
It's straight up wild. When I see Davenport, Iowa, there's a light that goes on.
I'm sorry that was the thing that you were focused on and not the fact that this guy fought Robbie Lawler.
What was it like?
Crazy.
I had a boss who's, the kids went to school with Robbie Lawler's kid. That's a 1 degree of separation I have. But now we have Freelance 81 as well. So, man, kudos for you to be here and still kicking and enjoying a Lawler fight. Thanks for being there with us. So, yeah, I got to give that to you.
Here's a fun story. I haven't told you this yet, Craig, but I work with someone at my work. Won't say any more than that. But they were at a family barbecue in Quebec, and guess who was there?
Marc-Andre Barrios.
No, a guy who got inducted in the Hall of Fame yesterday.
Oh, GSP.
GSP was there. So, anyways, talking to her about that. But yeah, they're second cousins. I thought
big
that was
bet alert.
interesting.
Somebody put $7,000 on Nick Diaz. That's not a big bet.
I don't know why you would put that much money on Nick Diaz, though. This is my whole thing, especially when guys are like big favorites when it's like their UFC debut against someone else versus UFC debut. We don't have enough information for you to be that sure about something. Like, unless that guy has like $2 million in the bank, I would not feel comfortable putting $7,000 on Nick Diaz, who I haven't seen actively compete in over 6 years.
All right, we get set for this featured 5-rounder. Obviously, there's going to be a bit of a lag, but we're going to pop the timer up there when we get the opportunity. Freelance 81, I know you're going to be on the edge of your seat like I am. And Nick Diaz goes for a weird kick, and Robbie Lawler is all about it. Nick Diaz shelling up.
Robbie Lawler doing what I said earlier. You got to go after Nick Diaz.
Ooh.
Don't give him the chance to really assess and get into a rhythm in this fight. Go at him early.
Robbie Lawler is throwing the kitchen sink at Nick Diaz. He's going head. He's going body. He's throwing great combinations, and now Diaz firing back with some shots of his own.
And the thing is, yeah, Nick Diaz is doing a decent job boxing on the inside, but if Robbie Lawler lands one of these power shots, it's going to be good night for Nick Diaz.
These guys are swinging like it's 2004, and we have 4 minutes and 23 seconds remaining, and I don't know, this isn't going to last 5 rounds.
I wouldn't say so, not at all. The way both guys are throwing, that's the thing, even Diaz is throwing pretty heavy shots.
Yeah, Lawler doing a good job of parrying his shots. He's doing a great job with his head movement and his trunk movement as well, with about a minute so far into our first round.
I would say it's fair to say that Robbie Lawler's the better athlete in this matchup, or at least early on. He seems to be the much faster guy getting from point A to point B, but you can see from the technique of Nick Diaz, when he goes to the body, when he is able to go in combination, he's making things tricky for Robbie Lawler early.
He had a nice lead hook to the body there from Nick Diaz, but again, for Lawler trying to figure things out and doing a really good job with that head movement. I can't stress that enough. Guy with jeans holding the camera, and that's throwing me off.
He could fight Artem Lobov next with a bunch of like sandbags in a circle. That's a thing that happens.
Minute and a half in so far. Diaz on the defensive. It's been a lot more single shots, but a nice body kick there. Trying to get a little bit of distance between him and Lawler, who had that early shot.
But this is the thing. When Nick Diaz is the one moving forward, you can kind of tell Robbie Lawler does not accept damage to the same level that he used to. And that's what does concern me. Like, yes, Lawler looks great early on, but when he does start to tire, what will he look like in that 4th, 5th round? Because we all know how good, like, prime 5th round Lawler was, but 39-year-old 5th round Lawler might be a different beast.
The 1-2s from Diaz are starting to find a little bit of a home. Really nice uppercut there from Diaz. But again, Lawler eats another one from Diaz, eats that left hand, and Diaz out of the southpaw position, starting to take over a little bit with his boxing, starting to back up Robbie Lawler, as was said.
And that's the thing about fighting Nick Diaz. It's just a lot. Yes, his boxing might look sloppy from time to time, but it's hard to find the holes in what he's doing because you're so focused on defending his punches coming in that you're not unloading with your own. Good uppercut
Diaz
by Lawler.
eats an uppercut, and man, this guy's got a chin. These guys are absolutely hammering away in the pocket. We're halfway through this round. It's been insane.
I will say this, Robbie Lawler looks much better than I thought he was going to. This looks like a much more aggressive fighter than we saw in the Neil Magny fight, and that was the big question mark I had in this matchup.
Diaz starting to do a great job teeing off. He looks like he's starting to find his range, too.
He doesn't look like a guy who just got off the couch, and I think that's all we were really hoping for. You know, like, worst case scenario was Lawler lands a good combination and Nick Diaz goes down early. He's absorbed big power shots, and he's starting to land his own.
52% of the Fight Night Picks fans over on Instagram had Lawler to get the win. That's how close it was, and you can see the voting up there. 54% here had Diaz to win.
Body shots.
Diaz is starting to go away with the striking here so far. Really striking in combination.
I'm going to be so happy if Nick Diaz wins for this reason. All those people who are like, oh, I watched one video of him shadowboxing for 3 seconds and I've never seen one of his MMA fights before are going to be wrong, and I'll be very happy because
Lawler lands a really nice left hand there in that exchange.
He does, but the wild thing about Nick Diaz, he just kind of eats them.
Yeah, that's been the thing so far in this fight. And really, it was that early flurry from Lawler that did a lot of great work. And for Diaz, he's just continued to gain. You talk about the tide. Lawler's got him backed up against the cage. Not really anywhere for Diaz to go. And then he throws his own combination.
And he's the one landing these accurate shots. And that's the thing about Nick and Nate's game. They don't need one punch. It's that pound the rock mentality. You just have to keep on staying dedicated to the technique, and eventually it'll do damage. But Lawler's doing some work in close.
Lawler's starting to throw, and now it's Diaz coming back at him. And you see the total strikes numbers. They favor Diaz.
Nobody thought this fight would be this good so far. This has been great.
Lawler doing a really good job in that one. 40 seconds remaining in the round.
This is a hard round to judge because I would say Diaz has landed more shots, but I would say the harder ones have definitely come from Lawler.
Yeah, this has been absolutely insane so far. Rob G saying both guys look slow and gassed. I don't know, Rob.
I don't think they do. I think these are two guys who know how to pace themselves, and that's the real important thing. These are guys who, they don't just have 5-round fights, they only have 5-round fights.
Lawler doing a good job getting away from that 2-punch combo, but Diaz comes back and lands a really nice left hand. And even with his back foot up against the cage, Diaz is doing really good work here, but now Lawler's starting to take over.
The good thing about Diaz, though, is, he did eat 2 clean shots there. I was just about to say, Diaz is doing a good job rolling with a lot of these shots.
Wow.
His head movement is good, but Lawler landed a lot of clean shots in that round.
That was an awesome round between those two guys. Man, that was fun. Like, oh man, 2004 Craig Allen. Get up. I was 10 back then.
I was a young man. Whole life ahead of me.
I've got round 1, 10-9 for Lawler, but that was as close of a round as you're going to have. You see the total strike numbers. They're going to favor Diaz in that one.
This is the thing, and we can talk about this really the whole time in between these rounds. This is something people got to figure out. Not all significant strikes are considered equal. So when they just flash that number at the bottom of the screen, Nick Diaz landed, let's say, 30, and Robbie Lawler landed 29. I would much rather get hit in the head 30 times by Nick Diaz than 29 times by Robbie Lawler, and the judges know that. That's the thing. No, they do, and that's what matters. Like, damaging shots are the thing that matters the most, and big shots are the thing that matters the most. So, I do agree with you. I think Robbie Lawler won that round, although, if the UFC just flashes the numbers, they're going to favor Nick Diaz in that one.
Mike Watkins, you're the only one so far in the chat that's in agreement with us. But that was one heck of a round between these two guys, former champions in different organizations.
I will say this. I feel like that was one of those Robbie Lawler won the battle, but the war is being won by Nick Diaz right now. If we get 4 more rounds like the one we just saw, it's going to continue to favor Nick Diaz as this fight goes on.
Both guys absolutely swinging here. 10 seconds into the round. Lawler already has Diaz backed up behind that black line. Once again, used to be the 2 black lines, but it's been the 1 black line for a little bit here now. 20 seconds in, Lawler digging to the body, going back up top. Nice knee from Lawler.
Diaz with one of those, but
Really went for a nice elbow in there. Wasn't able to get it. Ooh. Knee there from Diaz. Lands an uppercut. Lead uppercut. Able to land through the guard there for Diaz.
Just spamming punches.
Nice body kick there from Lawler. Backs up Diaz.
Yeah, I don't know if that one hurt him or not.
I don't know. Diaz not looking that hot right now. He's running away from the fight a la Alistair Overeem. I think that body shot did do a little bit of damage.
I think it might have, yeah. And Robbie Lawler, not always known for his kicks, of course, has that great head kick knockout win over Bobby Volker. Is that
Yeah.
it? Yeah. I don't know why. Like, one of the all-time great regional MMA fighters who had a short stint in the UFC, but Robbie Lawler head kicked him.
Lawler here trying to work. We're about a minute into our second round. 5 rounds in this one. Diaz starting to pull away here.
Do you think Nick Diaz has the philosophy like Tyron Woodley had in the first Wonderboy fight, where it is, instead of chasing my opponent down and following them a lot, is it easier for Diaz to invite a fight like this because he knows at least Robbie Lawler will stand in front of him?
It's funny to see the longer fighter have success in tight, and that's what he's starting to have here.
And that really is the thing about Nick Diaz. It's weird. He has long arms, but he is good at landing in close. It's kind of like Brian Ortega, and I know we'll talk about this more later on, but Brian Ortega is very big for the featherweight division. So when guys try to close the space on him, he found a way to deal with it. He throws elbows now. The thing about Diaz is he's got those great hooks to the body and the uppercuts coming up the middle.
Lawler's doing a really good job throwing that left hand out there. And again, it's a lot more motion. It's a lot more volume here from Diaz. Fighting a very boxing-esque fight. Neither guy throwing a lot in terms of kicks. And it's Lawler throwing the heavier shot. Diaz just pumping it out there and keeping that distance to where Lawler can't throw those power shots.
No, exactly. And both guys have landed a lot, though. That's kind of the wild thing, that neither one's really taken a step back. Now, I guess Nick Diaz can't take a step back or he would be outside of the octagon, but both guys, a lot of pressure in this fight.
Diaz up against the back. He took a knee there from Lawler. He took some uppercuts as well. Walking away from the fight. Lawler just looking to try and parry out of the situation, but it is Diaz landing a little bit more in terms of volume halfway through her second round.
I'm sorry, Craig, but could you imagine if Nick Diaz fought Kamaru Usman tonight? Usman would just it wouldn't even be close.
Ooh, bit of a sloppy kick there from Diaz, but again, 1, 2, 3 he has on Lawler, who just can't really figure this out, and it would be difficult.
And, okay, perfect example. What happened in the boxing main event from this afternoon? Alexander Usyk beat Anthony Joshua because sometimes 1,000 paper cuts is worse than losing your leg. It's a weird way to say that, I guess, but still, a death by 1,000 cuts does work. And if you are a guy like Nick Diaz, you can try to rely on your volume. Yes, you might lose these first 2 rounds, but like Dustin Poirier proved against Dan Hooker, if you can come out strong in those last 3, you can burn the first 2. I'm not saying it's a good plan. I'm just saying it's worked in the past.
Diaz might not be landing a lot of these shots, but he's throwing a ton of them. And even when he runs away, Lawler has to walk into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shots. So it has been a second round for Diaz here.
It's just been a really competitive fight. It's a much better fight than I thought we were going to get.
Lawler's starting to have success here in tight, starting to land a little bit. We're not seeing as much volume out of Diaz.
No, we're not. But the thing is with Lawler, can he punch himself out with power shots? Because Robbie Lawler's not the type of guy who goes out there and hits you with that one-hitter quitter. Yes, he has that kind of power, but he's someone who knows that his fights tend to go long. He's going to have to rely a little bit on his own cardio and durability. So I'll be curious to see if Robbie Lawler can have enough power, or does have enough power, to put Diaz down.
Yeah, Lawler's starting to find a little bit of success here. Under a minute remaining in our second round. They show the stat for total strikes. And with Diaz, yeah, he's ahead by, 26 to the head. But again, it's pop, 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 pop. And with Lawler, a little bit more oomph in his shots.
Nice right hook by Diaz.
Lawler did a good job, threw one to the body, and then followed up with 2, 3 more shots.
If Lawler can keep this pace for 5 rounds, then maybe he could fight a top 15 guy and beat them. But this is my issue. I think, and I was going to say this before.
Diaz talking now.
He is good. That's what we want to see. If Li Jingliang wasn't going to fight Khamzat Chimaev, I honestly think that could have been a really fun fight for Diaz to come back to. I know Jingliang doesn't have this massive following, but just from a fan's perspective, I think that would have been a great fight.
Yeah, I mean, this is a really, really tough one to try and score in the second round, too, because Lawler's been able to have a lot of success at the end of the round. Lawler really
walking
away.
Him down.
Walking him. This is old Robbie Lawler.
This is old school Robbie Lawler. Now, I feel 100% fine saying this. Big GSP fans growing up. We've said that a lot.
Oh, yeah.
So I love the welterweight division. Didn't like Johnny Hendricks a lot because he probably beat GSP, if we're all being very honest. Love Robbie Lawler growing up, though, and all of Robbie Lawler's fights always kind of bring me back to that, like, early stage of my MMA fandom, so it is really nice to see him sort of turn back the clock and at least get some of that aggressiveness back.
Lawler had some success in that round. Diaz pulling away with the volume. For me, I've got it tied. That blue dash, has it 19-19. I do too.
I would say 19-19, maybe 20-18 if you want it for Robbie Lawler. It's just hard to score these rounds for Diaz with him moving backwards, and I know that that's the last thing judges are supposed to take into consideration, but we both know that's not the truth, and that doesn't happen all the time, so it is always hard to score a round for a guy moving backwards, unless that guy is so well known for fighting backwards.
They talked about this in the boxing today. I mean, hey, you don't want to be sitting in your stool between the rounds, especially in the boxing, but Lawler standing up, he's fresh. Diaz on the stool, you never know.
In MMA, I don't know why there aren't more stories like this from MMA. Like, to talk about Tyson Fury very quick. Years ago, Tyson Fury and Vladimir Klitschko were in a sauna together, and Tyson Fury, they didn't even know each other at the time, but Tyson Fury made a mental note of, I'm not getting out of this sauna until Klitschko does, and that was his big thing. It was like, oh, I beat him mentally because I waited there first. I'm curious if Diaz will ever have that kind of a moment.
Live odds, Lawler minus 450, lands a really nice right hook there, and a left to the body, and did it hurt Diaz? He covered right up.
Both guys have landed a lot of body shots. That was a good left straight from
Lawler's
Diaz.
getting mean here.
Exactly. When Robbie Lawler's pushing guys back, he's a hard fighter.
Oh, he lands that right back to the body, and Diaz winces. Diaz fires back with another one to the body.
Oh, left straight from Robbie Lawler. That was a clean shot.
Oh,
that
hurt him. A knee?
Yeah, Diaz is hurt. He wants out.
No, he wants it on the ground.
No, he doesn't.
He hurt his knee. Yeah. Oh, no. Oh,
it's
no.
Over.
Hopefully Diaz... Oh, it's over. No. Oh, no. Oh, it's over for Diaz. Oh, no. You hate to see it. I'll end that. Oh, man. Oh, that's awful. That's another week for me.
I mean, that's fine, Craig. But, yeah, Nick Diaz kind of quit in that fight, and that sucks. And that was the thing that I said leading into it. You can't give someone the opportunity to assess the last 6 years that they weren't getting hit in the head. I know that's a very weird thing to say, but it's true. When you take damage in an MMA fight, it's not like you're working a regular job on a Friday.
Let's see this fight-ending sequence, because, again, for Lawler, he was landing to the head, he was landing that to the body, and then Diaz just goes down.
It was the left hand right before. I think he wobbled him early on. He just kind of went down Amanda Bobby Cooper style. He might be grabbing his knee, but the Diaz and McGregor camps know what they do when they lose, and it's set up rematches and set up future fights.
Yeah, that's weird.
Not really. He lost to Robbie Lawler.
Heck of a fight for Robbie Lawler.
Awesome.
Back in the win column. His first win in 4 years and a month. And if you're trying to pick a fight for Robbie Lawler, it really is tough. I mean, obviously...
Santiago Ponzinibbio and do it now.
No. Maybe Baeza, but yeah, that's a really tricky one. Matt, if you can hit it on over to the comment section there, I've had a lot of water.
I don't think it was... listen, leg injury all you want, but, like, he wouldn't be walking perfectly fine right now if it was a leg injury. I think he got hit in the head by a big shot, realized that, hey, maybe this isn't going to be fun for another 10 minutes, and then wanted out. I don't think that's a controversial thing to say. I think he has enough money that he doesn't really have to fight MMA ever again, but as you look at him right now, like, he busted up his nose. He was starting to take damage to the head, and he figured out, hey, I don't really have the same drive for MMA that I used to. And the thing about Robbie Lawler is that at least he's still been competing. He still has that competitive fire. I completely called this fight incorrectly, but I'm really glad that we saw the version of Robbie Lawler that we did tonight. This didn't seem like a shot fighter. This seemed like a fighter who could still have fun competitive matchups depending on who you put him in there with, but it just kind of sucks that was the end of such a great fight. It sort of reminds me a little bit of Nate Diaz, Jorge Masvidal when they had fought where, yeah, Jorge beat him and let's just say he beat him, but after that fight, Nate was like, oh, he only got me because of the cut. People who promote a lot of their fights kind of realize what they're doing, and yeah, just, I think he was just setting up his next fight when he initially grabbed his knee, I really do. For Robbie Lawler, great win, good for him to get back into the win column. It's been, 4 years or over 4 years, so yeah, that was just an absolutely wild turn of events, so yeah. I don't really know where Robbie Lawler goes from here on. I think he'll be able to beat more guys than I thought coming into this fight. But, yeah, that was just a disappointing end to what was a really great fight.
Well, that's it. I mean, for Diaz, you kind of get to live another day, I guess. And you can say, well, he didn't really finish me because
it's worse than that.
I gave up, but that's exactly it. it's really hard to match make because even as we said, could you make a fight with Usman if Diaz won? Probably not, but that's something the UFC might cash in on. But then when you look at it now, I mean, I don't know who you match make with Nick Diaz.
You can't match him with Usman. This fight was at 185 pounds. Usman has nothing to do with this fight. That's my thing with Nick Diaz. Like, I look at overblown lightweights who might want to try to get a big payday. I look at welterweights and middleweights as the only people who should be fighting Nick Diaz. I thought he would come out and try to grapple a little bit more in this fight, but yeah. Remember when Cain Velasquez fought Francis and got knocked out by an uppercut and immediately fell down weird and went, oh, my knee. And then he got up, walked around fine, and then there was no story of Cain Velasquez getting knee surgery. That's what Nick Diaz just did. This is getting way out there, but like, you know the saying, like, there's some fates worse than death? Quitting's worse than getting knocked out for an MMA fighter. Like, Dan Hooker lost to Michael Chandler in arguably the worst way you can, right? Got knocked out in the first round. First big shot he ate, he goes down. He didn't quit, though. I still don't question Dan Hooker when the going gets tough, and that's something I do about Diaz now.
Putting Diaz on the mic, I mean, he's still got his gloves on, so one would think that, maybe there's a possibility for something else some other time. But, yeah, it's just, an anticlimactic end, I guess, to a good fight that we just had right there. And it is difficult to see a guy like this, come back after such a long time away. You expect a fairly competitive fight, and for what it was good. Yeah, he did look really good. Rob G saying, I knew it, definitely reminded me of the Holyfield fight.
I don't think so. He looked good for like 15 minutes.
Let's answer the Californians question. Who does Nate Diaz fight next? It's got to be a legend at 170 pounds.
I think Nate Diaz fights Dan Hooker next, to be completely honest with you, just because Dan Hooker has one of those styles, and he has the reputation of being a fight of the night type of a fighter, and I think Nate Diaz wants those type of opponents out there, and I think Nate's going to go back down to lightweight and try that division out. We kind of know what happens against the upper echelon welterweights, so I'd like to see Nate go back down, and I do think the Dan Hooker fight would at least be a fun fight. Like, if I package Dan Hooker versus Nate Diaz as, like, a main ESPN, like, fight night card, or even like the co-main event of a pay-per-view, that is a massive fight.
Let us know over there, jumpins, over in the comment section, what Diaz said.
Yeah, we don't have the volume on, unfortunately, because we're providing our own commentary as they show Teofimo Lopez. Teofimo maybe supposed to be fighting next weekend, but no one really knows because Triller can't get their act together.
Giga Chikadze, the people's champion.
Yair Rodriguez finally got his fight booked with Max Holloway. That fight should be fight of the year. Like, if that fight lives up to everything that I think it can, I don't know how it won't be an amazing fight. Yair Rodriguez versus Max Holloway for what's probably going to be 25 minutes of kickboxing should just be absolutely insane.
Brad Tavares in the background. He's got a big fight coming up.
Got blonde hair, too, so you know what that means. He'll probably win.
You know who else has a really big fight coming up? Gavin Tucker. Gavin Tucker just had a fight announced.
Oh, I saw it announced, but I didn't see who against.
I'll get it for you in just a second.
That's exciting. Not a lot of fighters from our area of Canada in the UFC, but I would say Gavin Tucker is probably the most hyped up one.
Gavin Tucker fighting Pat Sabatini.
That's a tough fight for Gavin Tucker, but we'll talk about that more on a breakdown show. Pat Sabatini is just such a unique character right now because I don't really know if he is super one-dimensional or if I just haven't seen enough out of his game yet. Because I love Pat Sabatini's grappling. I know I've said that a lot on this show, but I just wonder how far just his grappling will be able to get him in the UFC. Because I think if he goes out there and just tries to implement his wrestling and jiu-jitsu, he might be able to get to like a borderline top 15 guy. But with Sabatini, he's really going to have to get his striking up to the level of everything else to really make that leap to become a ranked contender. But that's a great fight between those two guys.
100%. Kevin E saying, how does Yair get that fight? He pulls out all the time. Yeah, I mean, he's a classic pull-out king.
He's got a big fan base. Exactly. He's got a big fan base and he's exciting. And this is the problem. Everybody on Twitter goes like, oh, Yair and Max shouldn't happen. Max should fight for a title shot and Yair should be fighting unranked guys. You know what people are going to be saying on Twitter the night of that fight, though? Oh my god, Max Holloway's about to fight Yair Rodriguez. And by like the fourth round of that fight, people are going to be tweeting out.
I'm up for it.
Yeah, this is the greatest fight we've ever seen, probably. So I can't tell you just how hyped I am for that.
Yeah, 100%. Jesse's saying, oh, this one isn't even worth it. Yeah, it's not. I mean, I listen, Murphy stands. Call it what it is, but it's still difficult.
I thought Lauren Murphy did herself a big disservice being on The Ultimate Fighter. I know that's weird because normally The Ultimate Fighter is a springboard, if anything, for a lot of athletes. Like Ricky Tercios, a guy who, let's be honest, Craig, we didn't really care about The Ultimate Fighter for, let's say, 27 of the 29 seasons. But after going back and reviewing, I'm probably going to watch season 30. And I'm probably going to do it live. I can't believe I'm saying that because I had completely written off The Ultimate Fighter, but I had a lot of fun actually going back and rewatching the whole season start to finish. So if it's a division with a champion that I enjoy, I'm going to be really excited for it.
There's a preview for hockey on ESPN right now.
Yeah,
on a UFC, but it's on a UFC pay-per-view. This isn't just a regular commercial.
Yeah,
and
they got Wayne Gretzky, Craig.
Don't drink. No, he's not on ESPN. He's on TNT.
Ah, shoot.
Don't drink carbonated beverages and then try and talk. Sometimes you're going to get hiccups, and that's what I'm getting right now. But, man, I absolutely love that you guys in the States, you get to have hockey on the biggest network. And the Oilers play, like, 6 primetime games this year, so you actually get to see Connor McDavid. But, man, it's so exciting. I know the Habs played, who was it, the Leafs today?
Today, preseason, yeah.
But still, I'm so excited about the hockey season to be back. It feels like it just ended. But I can't get enough. Like, I'm so excited for that.
This is why I love MMA so much. It keeps me involved in a sport even when the other sports I enjoy are in an off-season. Because MMA has no off-season. We get UFC fights pretty much every single weekend. We are completely spoiled with it. But in the in-betweens from like baseball to basketball season, you get MMA. And the great news is, you say NHL, I think NBA starts, October 4th? MLB has pennant races now. NFL just started. Like, it's a great time to be a sports fan right now. This is always the sweet spot of the year.
Oh, 100%. I mean, my Cleveland Browns play the Bears tomorrow. Dalton's out. Like, so many exciting things.
I don't know who the Dolphins play. They'll probably lose because Tua is hurt, but that's fine.
They're going to be bad.
Yeah,
they're going to be
will.
bad. The old Dolphins.
Sad.
I mean, they have Jalen Waddell, and if you like Jalen Waddell, and
they
you
got
like
Xavier Howard's really, really good. I like him a lot. He gets a lot of interceptions, but it's tough to have one good defensive player.
15-minute card breaks that we have over on the TikTok. There's a lot of fun stuff I've been doing over there.
Yeah, there is. We talk about sports that are just MMA. So if you enjoy our, I'll say dumb references, sometimes they're smart.
If you like how excited I got about hockey, wait, you got another thing coming.
Yeah, exactly. We can talk about baseball, Canadian football, MMA. Like, it's just a great opportunity for us to kind of flex our nerding out of all these other sports. So just another opportunity for us to dive into other sports outside the MMA world.
Matt, for Shevchenko, she gets Murphy, but if you're looking at Shevchenko and you take away Liz Carmouche, and if you take away Amanda Nunes, both kryptonites, what would you say? And again, this is what, title defense number 6. I'll answer my question. I'll give it to you. I would say if I look at all the title challengers, I would say that Joanna for the belt was probably the toughest fight on paper that she had. Wouldn't you?
I would, but okay, I'm going to call you out for something now. For years, you told me I was crazy for saying that. You said that fight wasn't competitive at all. If you rewatch that fight, Joanna does pretty well. And this is the thing. This is my theory about Valentina, because I think we all probably know what's going to happen in this fight. We all know who's going to win. But let's just break down Valentina Shevchenko and try to create our fighter of how to beat Shevchenko. For me, I think the first thing you need to beat Shevchenko is speed. And I know that's a hard thing to do because Shevchenko herself is so fast, but the one reason I thought Joanna had success in their fight was that, yes, she didn't have the power to really hurt Shevchenko when she was putting those strikes together, but she landed a sneaky head kick in one of the rounds. She landed some good overhands. Like, when she would let her hands go, she had the hand speed advantage, and she was able to land some good shots.
I mean, people will be excited about the ketchup chips because they were asking about this over on, what was it? Was it the live show? Was it Question Mark Kicks? We get the ketchup chips. We get questions about them.
We do. They're really good. I don't know why Americans haven't figured out that ketchup chips are the bomb.
Ketchup might actually be my favorite kind of chip.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to tell you. I don't even like chips, but I like ketchup chips. Yeah. It's weird that it's a Canadian thing. You just think ketchup chips be everywhere in the world because ketchup's like the most widely used condiment.
And if you've never had it,
oh my goodness.
It's like if you took ketchup and then turned up the sweetness by like 100. Like, it doesn't really taste like ketchup. And Jake, the MMA fan, saying I'm from England trying to get into the NHL. You guys have, what do they call it? The Super League over there for hockey. So a lot of stuff there. Jake, what would I do if Lauren wins? Hit her up and see if she'll come on the show.
Craig gonna slide in them DMs if Lauren Murphy wins. Wow. Yeah, that's really funny to me. This is my thing for Lauren Murphy. Okay, if Lauren Murphy fights a perfect fight, I still don't think she can win. And that's why she's such a big underdog. You know, like, if Caitlin Chukagian fought her perfect fight against Valentina Shevchenko, she would have won. It's really hard to fight a perfect fight for 25 minutes against one of the best fighters in the world. My issue with Lauren Murphy is, what does a perfect Lauren Murphy fight look like? It's, I'm pressuring my opponent. I'm holding them against the cage. I'm taking them down. I'm landing ground and pound. I'm just making the fight ugly. And I know we say this a lot about a lot of fighters. Maybe, technically they're a step behind, but if they just make it ugly, they'll have a chance. Lauren Murphy's style really is just built around making fights ugly. I'm going to exploit your weakness and really accentuate it. So the issue, though, you're fighting a fighter who doesn't really have a weakness.
I mean, you look at Lauren Murphy, you want that marquee, big time win. That's got to stop. It was the Lilia Shakarova fight on short notice. You're taking on a smaller opponent who was on all of the banned substances, and still, she absolutely dominated that fight. It was one where you get excited, and I'm surprised that they have maybe promoted that a little bit more just in terms of the dominance there.
Because she beat a fighter making her UFC debut.
Most people don't know that. That are going to watch this fight because they're here for Diaz Lawler.
No, but all I'm saying is it's hard to market someone is now fighting for the title because of a great performance they had against somebody who no one had heard of up until that point. Like, in lightweight, Dustin Poirier is not fighting Charles Oliveira because he barely beat, Alex Munoz on the prelims one time. Like, no. He beat Conor McGregor and Dan Hooker and Justin Gaethje. Like, we're not going to bring up those wins. Yes, they're wins, but I would much rather focus on her win over Joanne Calderwood because Calderwood, in a sense, is somewhat of a traditional striker. Now, I know Valentina is a much better version. But I would say, at their bare bones, Shevchenko and Calderwood do have some similarities in their game. But the problem is that Calderwood has never really had the counter wrestling or the wrestling defense to evade anytime Lauren Murphy was crashing that distance. I think Shevchenko has more than enough footwork to keep on bouncing on the outside, circling out every time Murphy does pressure her, and make her eat shots as she comes in.
Over there in the comment section, Mike Pyle, after cornering Roxanne Modafferi, has joined us, so good for you. You're hanging around on DK. Not actually that Mike Pyle, unless you are. And Jake the MMA fan, you boys need to learn about prawn cocktail crisps. Jake, I've seen them, and I'll one-up you. I had some Marmite. Is it Watkins that's Lay's over in the UK? Because it's the same logo, right? But I think it's Watkins. I had them a couple of weekends ago when I went to St. Andrews, and they were pretty good. Like, I don't love Marmite, but I did like that one. So that was pretty good. I've got some Vegemite in the fridge right now. So there's that.
I was trying to think, what other regional food is there around here? A lot of seafood around here, a lot of lobster and whatnot. We live right next to the ocean, so a lot of the good stuff around here comes from, the cod. I would say the salmon and the Miramichi is quite good. It's very expensive, though, and hard to fish because they've got it all locked in. Yeah, you can't. So, we have some good regional food, just not that much for variety. Donaires, there's not a lot of Donaires in the western part of Canada. So, we've got some cool stuff up here.
Leaf Fan is saying, prediction for how Valentina wins.
Rear naked choke, round 2.
We all know that Lauren Murphy's hard to put out. She's one of the most tough and durable people, and we kind of said that on Question Mark Kicks. There was a super chat, and it was really tough to answer. For me, I still have a tough one. I'm just going with Valentina wins it. And if Valentina wins this one, and Volkanovski wins the next one, well, then I'm just happy as a clam. I only had 2 wrong, if it goes that way.
It's been a good night prediction-wise. For Valentina, this is the problem. It's hard to market her fights because she's so dominant. You had mentioned it on Question Mark Kicks. She is kind of the Demetrius Johnson of the UFC right now because, listen, if your marketability was based off of your skills, then Valentina Shevchenko would be the queen of the world right now. Like, she would have more money than she knows what to do with. But the issue is, the UFC is a business. They not only sell fights, they sell storylines behind those fights. And it's hard to sell a compelling storyline when you know the hero is going to win every single time. And that's what the UFC kind of has in their hands right now with Shevchenko.
Jake, it is Walker's. You're right. And there's some spots here in Fredericton that sell it. I don't know if we have any British specialty shops in Fredericton. I know there's one in Sackville. There's one in St. Andrews. They're kind of all over the place, though, really. I mean, even Maine has a lot of British specialty shops. There's one in Freeport, for frig's sakes. But, yeah, that is the way that it is. I've never had spotted dick. I've never had, what else?
I've had some wild food. I've had calf brain, and it wasn't good.
Yeah, that's, I wouldn't admit to that one straight up. It is what it is, Matt. We get Valentina Shevchenko out here. Obviously, they're marketing her right now as one of the most dominant champions that we've seen in the UFC. They've already thrown around the superlatives of, future Hall of Famer.
She's without a doubt
one of the greatest champions that you've really seen. And Tovan really hit the nail on the head. Valentina's just cold with this walkout. She definitely is. She's ready to dance once it's over. Pavel in the corner. Antonina Shevchenko, I'm sure not that far behind. But for Valentina Shevchenko, born and bred to be a fighter is definitely what you go with. I mean, this is one of those people out there that's just so specialized and so uber focused that's how you attain not only the level of success that she's had in the cage, but also the respect from the gamblers and the odds makers out there too.
At least Matt Serra had heavy hands. Like at the end of the day, there's these big underdogs. It happens once every 6 months, I'd say, where we look at a fight card and we're like, wow, that would be the biggest underdog I've ever seen. And yes, there's always an outlier in like Bellator or something, but still, for the most part, we'll get, a minus 900 on a card. And sometimes they lose, and normally it's by submission because they get very, very tired. But sometimes we do get a crazy upset. I've never felt more confident in a big favorite than I do tonight. And I know it's like, oh, well, of course you feel confident. She's supposed to win anyways. But you always kind of have that, in the back of your head. You're like, oh, well, if the opponent could just do one thing. I don't even know what Murphy's one thing can be in this fight.
She's scrappy.
And she is, but I don't think scrappiness can get you over the hill when you're fighting someone like Valentina Shevchenko. If you were fighting Kamaru Usman and the UFC talked about your scrappiness on your way to the octagon, I would be extremely concerned about your long-term well-being.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And Kevin East saying Sarah's a legit black belt. So he had that.
And exactly. Like, he had great submission ability. It was weird because Matt Serra's heavy hands were almost a disservice to his career. This isn't a Matt Serra podcast, but anyways, Matt Serra, oddly underrated.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, you saw the nice moment in the last episode of Embedded where he and GSP kind of spent a little bit of time together behind the closed doors backstage. But Lauren Murphy getting her props here. They showed it in the countdown in the Embedded. She was making the walk, kind of getting mentally prepared for this. She's been through this hundreds and hundreds of times. Her husband in her corner, as well as striking coach Bob Perez. You see him in the corner for a lot of different fighters, but mainly Derek Lewis. Ultimately you get him there as well. But Lauren Murphy with one of the toughest tests ahead of her in pound for pound GOAT, as it was said earlier.
Without a doubt. That's the weird discussion. I guess it doesn't really matter because Amanda's won twice, but if you really want to get into the pound for pound, who is better, Amanda at her weight division or Valentina at hers? Because Amanda's beaten everybody at this point to where it's not even a competition. You were talking, Norma Dumont's getting a headlining spot soon?
It's awful. It's awful.
This is the point that the women's bantamweight and featherweight divisions are at after Amanda Nunes has walked through them. There's just nothing left anymore. They're getting unranked contenders to fight former champions just to try to get a compelling fight put together. So for Shevchenko, I think she's going to find herself in a very similar position sooner rather than later. And whether that is 115-pounders moving up like we had seen in the past, like with Ioana Jędrzejczyk, whether that might be an Andrade rematch in the future, it's just none of those fights really excite me all that much.
We get the particulars there all the way through. The Poison Dwarf, Keith Peterson, into the center of the octagon with Bruce behind him, straddling with the mic. You get a glove tap. You love to see it, Matt.
You do, without a doubt. That's the great thing about MMA. Everybody real respectful by the end of it. Well, most of the time. Not John Jones, but everybody else.
All right, Matt. Getting set for it. We'll pop that logo out in the middle. We'll get the 5-minute timer up. Obviously, there will be a delay between us, the show, and you. So keep that in mind if you want to pause it on your end. We get set for the first round between the southpaw, Valentina Shevchenko, coming out of Orthodox, is the challenger, lucky Lauren Murphy, who looks to be the bigger fighter here in the octagon. She is 5 years older as well. Shevchenko pressing forward. And Matt, it was said over there in the comments section that by Mr. Lee, Shevchenko is a robot. Fighting Shevchenko is like playing chess against the computer. She does kind of fight a little bit like a robot.
She does. The weird thing about Shevchenko is it is also set up, everything that she does. And it doesn't really feel like there is much of a flow to her movement, although I understand it all is. Like, I don't think Shevchenko's in there actively thinking, like, okay, jab, leg kick. Like, I'm sure it is all automatic for her, but the way she does fight, it is very stiff and it doesn't give out that impression. But the issue Lauren Murphy's going to have in this fight is when can I attack? Because if you're on the outside rushing in a lot, you're just going to be walking into power shots from Valentina. And on the outside, that's where Valentina can start getting off with the leg kick, setting up the rest of her attacks.
Biggest upset of all time, Rob G. And I think it was statistically, it was either 1 or 2 when Shayna Dobson beat Maria Agapova.
Okay, but Craig, what's your favorite upset of all time? I don't care.
Oh, yeah, it's left hook Larry.
Is that, yeah, that's probably it. I was watching that pay-per-view with a bunch of friends who didn't really care about MMA that much, but I loved Michael Bisping. It's one of my great MMA fandom moments.
Yeah, 100%. You see these big reactions out of Murphy, or I have, and Shevchenko's not really setting up that kind of winging left hand there, but you have seen Murphy kind of freeze up a couple of times. Hasn't hit her yet, but yeah, Murphy grabbing the leg, not able to do a whole lot with it, and you had a right hook. Lead right hook there from Shevchenko land.
So I'm going to say something that people don't like, but I'm still going to say it. I don't think Valentina Shevchenko is an entertaining fighter. Now, let me...
Superwoman punch.
Yeah, let me explain everything behind that. If you push the action on her, she's the most entertaining women's fighter. She will dissect you in a way that you haven't seen since grade 11 biology class. But if you wait on the outside and try to force her to lead the dance, she doesn't have the highest level of volume. You can even go back and look at the Liz Carmouche fight. She beat Liz Carmouche, but it's not like she ran away with that fight. That fight was a lot closer in hindsight than a lot of people remember, just because neither fighter threw with a lot of volume at any of the rounds.
Halfway through our first round, roughly, and Shevchenko has led the dance for what it's been worth, and Murphy's done a lot of reacting. So again, like you said, she's got to she's one of those fighters, she sets a little bit of a pace, she gets kind of drawled into some of those brawls, if I will, to borrow from Bishop. But yeah, I look at this one, Murphy now is starting to take a couple of steps forward, but she's not really committing to any of her shots.
And that's the thing. Do you think she's more likely to close the distance with her strikes, or just to do it to set up her wrestling?
I would think that she's got to kind of get something started on the feet. And again, it's reactionary. It's a lot of big movements and nothing happening here so far for her.
And just even like that or Lauren Murphy. So Lauren Murphy throws a Superman punch into an outside leg kick with her lead leg.
Nothing committed.
Nothing, exactly. She's not really throwing much behind either one of those shots.
And Shevchenko, normally she'll set some things up. She won't use her power right off the hop. And in this first round, it's been a lot with vicious intent.
And they're small movements, but they land very hard. She doesn't have to wind up to land with a lot of power. Her technique is so good, and she's so fast that all she has to do is focus on getting from point A to point B and let the punch do the rest.
That 1-2 jab with that, I would say, a left overhand, it just kind of gets out there quick. It hasn't really found its home. For Shevchenko, she's almost kind of hit it right here between the chest and the neck. It hasn't hit the head yet. But you know, when it does land, that's going to be all she wrote. And I mean, 1 minute and 10 seconds remaining here in our first round. Shevchenko's really led everywhere so far.
And Lauren Murphy just really hasn't landed anything of significance yet. She hasn't moved forward with her own strikes. She hasn't even gone for a takedown attempt. And I'm kind of surprised we haven't at least seen one clinch exchange, because Lauren Murphy will at least pressure her opponent up against the cage. It might not always result in a takedown, but at least it gives the fight a different look for about 15,
spinning
20
back
seconds.
fist there from Shevchenko, and then she follows it up with a combination.
That's the thing about Shevchenko, just like fighting a buzzsaw.
Nice leg kick there. Gets a head kick, a little bit of a body kick. So many different looks so far from Shevchenko. And you said, you know, it's stiff and it's this and it's that. But it is hard to tell what's going to be coming at you once you do kind of close into some of that distance. Shevchenko lands a nice combination. Gets a takedown too. And now she's in half guard with about 20 seconds to work.
That's the thing about Valentina Shevchenko. I'm curious to see if an opponent will ever be able to capitalize on this, because she doesn't go for single and double leg takedowns. A lot of her takedowns are from that body lock position. And if she ever does fight a fighter who is able to sort of initiate a scramble from that, or just do something different than just fall on their back, then I do think that we'll start to see Shevchenko at least go to her plan B. It's just right now Shevchenko hasn't even tried to see what isn't working yet.
The strike numbers through 23-5. You had the takedown attempt early from Shevchenko. And it's weird, little bit of a mouse behind, or below, sorry, the left eye of Lauren Murphy. There's paying a lot of attention to that too.
Well, she is a fighter who does show damage quite poorly, and that's the problem. Like, there's just some fighters who don't accept damage well. Some guys like Max Holloway can get hit 400 times in a fight and get like a little mouse under their eye, and that's about it. But other fighters like the Diaz boys and Lauren Murphy, they don't take damage very well.
Jake, I got to offer a little bit of a pushback here, because Lauren Murphy's been on an impressive 5-fight win streak, somebody that turned their career around, and it really is a deserved opportunity. comparing everybody else that's at the top of this 125-pound division, this is a fresh matchup, too.
The Phoenix Suns got to the finals by beating a bunch of injured teams. They still made it to the finals, though.
Not much is true.
Well, it's true. Like, they wouldn't have beat the Lakers if they had AD. They probably wouldn't have beat the Nuggets if they had Jamal Murray fully healthy. It's just sometimes you get really far by getting lucky. And I shouldn't even say that. That is her nickname. But still, she's on a 5-fight winning streak. Like, that warrants the title shot.
Lauren Murphy taking the center of the cage to start this one off. Knows that she has to have a better round than she did in the first one, because that one definitely did not go her way. It was an easy 10-9 for Shevchenko. Somebody who's used to cruising through rounds and continuing to hold on to that gold.
And Lauren Murphy can't expect Shevchenko to get tired at this pace. If you're Murphy, you have to do something to get Shevchenko to work. Because if you just allow her to bounce on the balls of her feet all night long and start to tee off from the outside, she's never going to get tired. She can do this for 50 minutes.
And I mean, you saw it. I mean, let's talk about tough tests. Maya had a little bit of success on the ground. Murphy able to defend that takedown attempt from Shevchenko. Murphy going for a single leg, and she's high on it. Now she's going to transition into the body lock, and that's prime candidate for a little bit of a role reversal for Shevchenko to maybe use that body weight against her and earn a takedown of her own.
But this is good. Lauren Murphy is at least making this somewhat of a Lauren Murphy fight. And yes, this might only last for a minute, but she's at least giving Valentina Shevchenko a different look, and that's the really important thing.
Murphy going for that high crotch single. She's got a lot of time on that clock. She's really trying hard to get this takedown attempt. Trying to land a little bit of a knee, a little bit of a different look. And Jake, yeah, I agree. I did think that was a tight fight. I had it for Murphy, but you can make an argument either way. Again, it was a split, and a lot of people saw it in different ways. But she's here nonetheless. Calderwood would have been fun too, but yeah, we get Murphy.
Guys, Juliana Pena is fighting Amanda Nunes. If you have a problem with this fight, you better have a problem with that one.
Norma Dumont's in a main event against Holly Holm.
That's what I mean. There's stranger things going on in the MMA world than Lauren Murphy getting a title
Guy
shot.
that hadn't won a fight since 2014 fought on the prelims of a pay-per-view card and got whooped.
Nick Diaz just gave up, and that's not something I ever thought would happen. So hey, we're living in strange times.
Now, we have to say this as an MMA company. You love to see the fights every single weekend. I like that we have something to talk about, but it's a little bit watered down. Watered down.
This has been a great pay-per-view, though. Like, top to bottom, fight entertainment-wise, I would say this has been a great pay-per-view.
2 minutes and 53 seconds remaining in our second round. Murphy having a better opportunity here in this one, but she just ate a right hand from Shevchenko on the entry.
She just can't get anything strung together. Like, she'll have success, she might land a jab, she might get into the clinch, but it's a matter of actually putting those techniques together to start winning rounds.
Murphy doing her darndest to kind of close that distance there, but now you get Shevchenko, who's able to counter on those entries.
Just a tough night in the office for old Lauren Murphy.
Needs that luck. Ooh, that spin kick kind of hits the body, but it's reaction out of Murphy. And, yeah, Shevchenko able to get a lot out of those. Goes deep on the body lock, gets the takedown.
And Shevchenko's just so good defensively, too. Even if Lauren Murphy was a one-punch knockout kind of a puncher, it's not like she'd had the opportunity to land that one punch very often. If Amanda Nunes can't finish you in 8 rounds, not many people on the face of the earth can.
You have Shevchenko burning a little bit of clock here. She's working from half guard against lucky Lauren Murphy. Minute 50 remaining. Let us know. I mean, listen, Rob G saying, do you think it's going to go 5 rounds? I do.
Yeah, this will probably look a lot like the Chukagian fight. I think Shevchenko will win every single round, but just, not the Chukagian one, sorry, the Joanna one. I think she'll win every single round. Some might be close, but at the end, it'll probably be 50-45.
Minute 30 remaining. Shevchenko not doing a lot to advance the position. Maybe the referee stands it up from here. Keith Peterson known to just kind of sometimes let knockout fights drag on a little bit too long, like Marlon Moraes and Merab Dashvili.
We did this right before we got on for this show, but what have been your guys' standout performers from the night so far? Because I'm always curious, it's one of those you can't see the tree for the woods because we're so close to MMA. Who have you guys been the most impressed with so far tonight? Because I can honestly say the performance that Chris Daukaus had against Shamil Abdurakhimov, to me, says, okay, Chris Daukaus, you can now fight Derek Lewis. You can now fight Jairzinho. You can now get ready for some of the better fighters in this weight class.
Yeah, like, I mean, Matt Semmelsberger has an early wicked knockout.
But it's against...
You could argue he beat Chaos Williams. One person on MMA Decisions did, but it was a really close fight. It was a 29-28. Either guy could have won.
Chaos Williams is a good fighter.
Yeah, that's the thing, and I didn't think he was great coming into the UFC. So it is really tricky, but I'd like to hear from everybody in the comments section because in this round, Murphy had a better showing. You have that top control from Valentina, so you have to wonder, did the judges just credit that and that's the round? But for me, I look at this one and I say, okay, yeah, it is tough. Gorgeous T4U. You guys predicting Omar Morales would win.
That was a bad one. He got out-grappled.
But I've only got 2 wrong so far. So, yeah, it is tricky.
Mullet Man with the sweet KO. Do you think Matthew Semmelsberger will refer to himself as that? I'm just that Mullet Man with the sweet KO.
Mullet Man with the sweet knockout coming out of Crazy 88 MMA with my coach John DeBrug. Yeah, I don't know.
Lauren Murphy looks really frustrated going back to her corner, so you have to wonder, is she just going to go for broke in this 3rd round and say, hey, if I get finished, I get finished, but let's at least try to make the fight look different. Exactly. You're probably not going to get another opportunity. Now, that's a lot easier said than done. That'd be like if someone... The Prime Minister came to the restaurant that I work at a couple weeks ago. Now, luckily, I didn't have to cook for him, because that's
the time he dissolved Parliament, so he wasn't really the Prime Minister.
Okay, just let me tell this. I didn't have to cook for him, and I'm very happy about that. That would have been a lot of added pressure. Right now, Lauren Murphy is not only asked to do her job, but it's basically, if you don't do this to the best of your ability, you're never getting the opportunity again. If I cooked for the Prime Minister and didn't do well, it'd be like if he just walked in the back and went, you're fired, you're never cooking again. Like, Lauren Murphy has a lot at stake right now. If she is able to get this win, you're the champ. You now become, I was going to say only the 2nd ever, but Nico Montano does exist. So, for Lauren Murphy, I don't know why you wouldn't go for broke. Do the Jairzinho round 1. Do the Marlon Moraes. Like, just go for it.
Here we go, Matt. Here we go. We get our 3rd round between these two, and luckily or unluckily, you get 5 of them. So, Murphy has an opportunity. She eats a leg kick. That's the first strike of the round. Shevchenko goes high with her lead leg, a strike that you don't often see in MMA whatsoever. The conversation over there, Kevin E. saying, no way she goes for broke. She's going to survive and take a 50-45 L.
You're probably right, but I would like to see Alexander Volkanovski and Brian Ortega about 15 minutes earlier.
Rob G, we got to answer that one, because, yeah, that was a conversation that you and I agreed on going into it. Then it seemed like it was picking up steam as Dawkins was winning, and then he called out everybody under the kitchen sink except for Tom Aspinall. I think Aspinall wins that fight, but it's really, really close.
I think it's way too early to say who would win that fight, first of all. I really do. And this is the thing. Well,
what do you need to see?
What do you mean? It was just, they're 2 of the top 5 heavyweights in the world. It's hard to say, this guy's just going to win. Don't really know who would win. But this thing about Tom Aspinall, he has come out and said, I don't want to fight the guys in the top of the division until I get a better contract. Which makes sense. Why would you risk fighting Chris Dawkins for like $15,000? Wait till you get on your 2nd UFC contract when you're making more money, and then you can start fighting those upper echelon guys. So honestly, I think it would be kind of smart if they do avoid each other until they do fight at the top of the division later on. But just from the fan of me, I would love to see finally who is the best prospect out of those 2 guys, because both guys have so much to offer this heavyweight division.
I mean, Marcin Tabora's got some fun fights that he could be in coming up.
That's true.
Sergey Spivak obviously wasn't able to get it done against Aspinall, but I still think Spivak is a quality enough prospect here. I think now he's probably a litmus test between like that top 10, even like 15 to 20 or 10 to 20, but it really is tricky. A lot of guys moving, coming in, and a lot of people excited about Carlos Felipe as well. So
Carlos Felipe's a fun fighter to watch, but I don't really think he's the type of guy who can go and win a title.
And your guy Justin Taffa's got a big fight coming up against
Don't call him my guy.
Name I brought up even
Justin
recently.
That good.
Taffa is going to be fighting Harry Hunsucker. So Matt, as this fight continues on, Rebecca Middleditch, Aspinall got it. I think it's a great fight nonetheless.
I really do. Like that, again, there's a reason it has to happen.
It's like Fiziev and Brad Riddell. Just fights that need to happen.
It's way better than that. That fight to me is a title eliminator if ever there was one. Like when Chris Dawkins fights Tom Aspinall, the winner has to be fighting for a belt next.
Interesting stuff. Halfway through our 3rd round here, 5 title, but it's just Shevchenko and Murphy, and I talk about it all the time. It's that Keith Richards, Mick Jagger, would just start me up. And we just keep playing that riff at the start because she hasn't been able to start up. She just, every single time she goes to kind of gain distance, she's not able to do a single thing.
I don't know what the official numbers are right now, but from what I've seen, Lauren Murphy's landed 2 significant strikes this whole fight. And the issue is, she isn't even getting anything set up right now. A lot of the times if someone's getting washed out in a fight, at least they're starting to set up things for later on. But Lauren Murphy's just accepting damage, and it hasn't been life-altering damage by any means, but it's just her at the outstretched of Shevchenko's range, and she's having 0 success.
Minute 35 remaining or thereabouts. And Shevchenko really starting to pull away. She's starting to land a lot of those leg kicks. And once you limit the movement of your opponent, you're somebody like Shevchenko, you can start to add those wrinkles. The spinning back fist. Again, the lead high kick. All the things that she does. But a good little flurry there for Murphy, who's starting to close that distance and push a little bit of her own pace here. Eats a body kick, and Shevchenko is now upset. She's going off.
This is the problem with Lauren Murphy. All she's doing is backing straight up anytime she is eating punches, so it's getting her enough out of the range that she's not eating a bunch of clean shots, so it's not like she's getting so damaged that she might get TKO'd, but she just is so far away that she can't land anything. So for me, it's just, I don't know what Lauren Murphy can do to turn this fight around.
I mean, it's like trying to beat Madden on All Legend, if there wasn't All Legend. It's very, very difficult when you're playing the computer like that and you're behind and you're just having a rough go. For Lauren Murphy, I say that because if you look at the way that she's fighting, well, she's getting outboxed, and then the one thing that Shevchenko's doing a great job of is she's throwing those kicks that Murphy has no shot at checking.
Not only that she has no shot at checking, but she hasn't even tried to catch one to go for her own takedown attempt. She went for that one kind of half takedown attempt that ended up getting her in the clinch where she got taken down. It's just every time Lauren Murphy commits to a strike, she herself is getting taken down. Anytime she's on the outside trying to box, she's getting outpointed. So for Murphy, I just don't know what areas or at what ranges she can have success.
Yeah, I mean, we get into the end of this round. Rob G, I'll answer your question in a second. 2 seconds remaining. I mean, for me, it's pretty simple. It's a 30-27 for Shevchenko.
Without a doubt.
All right, Matt. We look at the total numbers, 69-22, the total strikes. Keith Allen saying Allen's rules. Yes. Yeah, O'Doyle's don't. The Allens do. Gon versus Ngannou. Obviously, Gon is going to look for the legacy of MMA Factory. Ferdinand Lopez still in the corner, but Francis decided, I'm done, and moving his training camp over to Extreme Couture. Obviously, he has Dewey Cooper in his corner, as well as Eric Nixick and the crew. He's made giant leaps in his game. We saw that in his last fight against Stipe. So I love that fight. It is tricky. It is really tricky.
Would Francis kind of become a villain, if you really think about it, if he just destroys Cyril Gane?
The best part of it is, if I pick Francis to win, it's just like the Brandon Moreno hype that we had when he was taking on Figueiredo. And then when he won, it was like, well, you guys didn't have Moreno.
Okay, quit sitting on fences all the time, Craig. You got to stick to something eventually. Like, this is the thing. If Francis knocks out Cyril Gane, it's, I left your gym and I beat your best fighter. That's a bad thing to do to a guy. If Cyril Gane wins, then I think they could just set up the rematch immediately after. But for Francis, if you get rid of Cyril Gane, there's not a lot of other, right now, interesting title challengers. Like, Stipe lost, Gane lost. Right now, there's fun prospects, but I don't think any of them have gotten up to that level yet.
You also told me and everybody else it was too early to kind of even think about Dawkins and Aspinall. I don't think it's too early.
I think it is.
I think it's the right time. Keith Allen's having a good time.
If Tom Aspinall himself doesn't want to fight top guys, then I doubt he would accept the Dawkins fight.
The Californian saying Francis' takedown defense looked way better versus Stipe, and he had the offense as well. You like to see that. But Gane, no slouch on the ground. We've seen that too. So, very impressive fighters. It's a fight that has to happen. Hopefully the UFC has the stones to make that fight happen.
And it's a title unification bout in the heavyweight division. Like, it just feels like a big fight. You know what I mean? Cyril Gane is this new version of a heavyweight. He's well-rounded. He's got this cool athleticism. He's fast on his feet. Francis Ngannou is like the most throwback, but also kind of the most new age heavyweight champion, you know? Like, yes, he's just got that one-punch knockout power, but he has real skills to go behind it, too.
Lauren Murphy catching Valentina on the back foot. A little bit of, a misstep there from Shevchenko. But listen, if you want to make a good still photograph, it could look like Lauren Murphy dropped Valentina Shevchenko.
She didn't land a punch, though.
I'm sure there's a great one where the wind just whooshes through and maybe she gets pushed by a ghost.
So ghosts are having more success against Shevchenko than Lauren Murphy is at this point.
I mean, I saw, no word of a lie, my wife can corroborate, at the grocery store today, at Sobeys, there was a magazine about ghosts, right at the front.
People getting wild.
People are getting wild.
Don't know what that has to do with Shevchenko.
Just wild ghost stuff. Matt, we are 3 minutes and 20 seconds into, 3 minutes 20 seconds remaining in our fourth round. And so far, this fight has not been close.
If I'm Lauren Murphy's coach, I stop it in between rounds just because I say, hey, you're just eating shots at this point. You don't have a chance to win the last 5 minutes. It's a very boxing mindset thing to say, but...
Do you find that that's something, again, yeah, we see that in boxing, again, where it's topical. Usyk, when he took on Chaz Witherspoon, where the corner just threw in the towel in that one, they said, yeah, he wasn't ready to go. Are you surprised that we haven't seen more of a progression in MMA to corners throwing in the towel?
There's a celebrity in MMA who's only known for having the word "just bleed" on his chest and yelling into a camera, and that happened 20 years ago. No, I don't think we will, and it's unfortunate, and I do think that the fans have a large part to play in that. I really do, because if people didn't just butcher fighters for, and I'll say the word quitting on the stool, but it's very different. If your coach or the ref decides, hey, it's not your night, I'm going to be the person to save you from yourself. Oh, she hurt her.
Oh, giant head kick from Shevchenko.
Oh my goodness, this is a Phil Baroni, Dave Monet type combo up against
Shevchenko
the cage.
going hard, and Murphy almost gives the back up against the cage.
She's hurt
She's
bad.
eating a ton of damage. She gets taken down by Shevchenko.
Ooh,
Shevchenko is absolutely unloading here, and it was all off of that left hand that really damaged her.
It was the head kick. That was a filthy combo.
Shevchenko doing a great job here. Keith Peterson giving Murphy the benefit of the doubt in this title fight.
I think if Shevchenko just stays aggressive and lands hammer fist, she will be able to get the stoppage by the end.
Are you halfway surprised she took it to the mat?
Not really, just because it's not like Murphy's been able to get back up to her feet. So if you do have your opponent hurt and they haven't had the ability to threaten off their back or get back up to their feet on their own, then you might as well just try to hammer away with more hammer fists. What I will say, though, is I'm surprised she isn't more active in the top position.
Shevchenko with a minute 25 remaining. She's up on top in half guard. Murphy on her back, obviously dazed. She got hit by some insane combinations, not just on the feet, but once it was back down to the mat, Shevchenko was hammering away. Now she's working for good top position, landing some of those forearms to the head of Murphy. Keith Peterson's in here. If it continues on, he's going to stop this fight.
It's just Lauren Murphy hasn't really responded at all.
He's going to stop, but it's over. Valentina Shevchenko makes another successful title defense to nobody's surprise. And I think after this one, do we try and break DJ's record? I mean, do we try and maybe challenge Nunes after the Pena fight?
I personally don't really want to see the Nunes fight. I think Nunes has also improved a lot since their last fight, and I thought Nunes won their last fight. I know it's a bit of a controversial thing to say, and even in the moment, I thought Shevchenko did win, but I've watched that fight a couple times since. It's not great. I don't recommend it, but I did think Nunes won. This is the thing I will say about Shevchenko. She is never going to lose at this weight division. I could see her maybe doing the Anderson Silva and like, hey, Jermaine Durand to me, I'll fight you in a co-main event slot on a pay-per-view. If I lose, I go back down, keep on beating people at 125. If I win, then I fight Amanda Nunes. I don't know if that's what the UFC will do, but personally, I think that'd be a great direction for them to take.
Yeah, it'd be really interesting. And again, I mean, Andrade, she's going to be knocking on that door with the win that she had. And I don't think she's going to get a rematch just because of, well, the way that fight went against Shevchenko. And really, it was just so recent as well. So it's tough to make that
This
fight.
what people forget. Shevchenko not only outstruck Holly Holm, took her down and absolutely mollywopped her on the mat too. So that's why I think Shevchenko could go back up to 135 and have a lot of success against their top contenders.
If you had to guess, do you assume that that's the monster aluminum can that contains water?
I would say.
Yeah, I would too.
I don't think Valentina's messing with the energy drinks like we do.
Jesse Crayford saying, yeah, Nunes is next. For lucky Lauren Murphy, she made it to the dance. She got that title shot, and you got to feel good for her.
Yeah, that was a bad loss, though.
That was a bad loss. That was a bad one. TKO win for Valentina Shevchenko in the fourth round. And Matt, we had her up 30-27 even heading into that one. Dana White in the cage to present her with her belt once more. Kevin E saying a Nunes fight doesn't sell. UFC just feeds Valentina contenders until something comes up. Yeah, I mean, again, like it's sparse at this point as far as people that she hasn't fought. I mean, again, like you had, Dr. Neville? Is that what Joanne Calderwood's nickname is? Something
yeah.
like that. But she lost that fight to Murphy, so it's tough to try and even make that one. Like, I'll bring it up right here, right now. If we look up current best flyweights, usually Tapology brings up who has fights. So they've got Shevchenko, Chukagian's won 2 in a row. Andrade just won her last fight. Maya just won her last fight. Calderwood lost. Calvillo lost 2 in a row at this point. Araujo just lost her last fight. Chukagian. Grasso's won 2 in a row. She's fighting Calderwood. So on and so forth. But like that, now we're really starting to stretch too once we get down that far.
I just don't know what you do next. I really don't. And I love MMA more than any other sport. But like, I don't really care who Shevchenko fights next because she's going to beat them.
Let's answer the question from Rob G. And it is a very controversial one. I think it's neat that Shevchenko trained with Brandon Moreno. I really do. And
for
you know,
4 minutes.
Well, yeah, I would have been eager to see all of the tape, but, you know, she looked pretty good in that. But I don't need to see anything like that. I think you just keep them separate, and there's not much of a need for it.
Yeah, it's a dumb idea. Why? No. Why would anyone want to watch it? Like, there's not even a market for it.
Oh, I'm sure there is.
Yeah, but no, of like terrible people, and
Yeah,
that's
it. There's some odd ducks out there.
But don't even say odd. Just say what you say, Craig. Goodness. Just like, yeah, that's never gonna happen. Not a bad question, Rob. It's not something I could ever see people willingly pay for and then fill arenas to then go watch.
That's it. There's not that many people out there that are gonna want to watch it. So, yeah, I mean, I threw out the final poll because it ended quite some time ago, and I noticed it was still there. But yeah, I mean, for Shevchenko, there's contenders if you want to call them that, but if you really think about it, you got to kind of springboard some of these fighters, and we talk about some of the top prospects that we have at 125. I mean, again, the Mavericks and the Barbers and so on and so forth. If we really look down through it, who else is there that's picked up wins recently that's in the UFC? Casey O'Neill, but she's still so early on in her journey as a martial artist. Maeda Bueno Silva, they moved her fight up against Manon Fiorot that was supposed to be on this card. Now it's October 16th? I think it's on that Norma Dumont Holly Holm card. But again, they're so far away at this point that it really is tough to try and matchmake. I think the Nunes fight against Pena's it. Unless you just hand feed her contenders like DJ had for the longest time.
You just went all the way down to Casey O'Neill.
That's what I'm saying.
This is what we're talking about when we talk about the fact that Shevchenko has no more opponents left. We brought up a fighter who's like 5-0-1 and they've had 2 fights in the UFC. It's just there's no one out there. It's unfortunate. I really do think Germaine Arandami, Valentina Shevchenko is a fight I would like to see. I think that's a high-level striking battle, and I think that's a fight that Arandami could win. I think Valentina probably takes her down a bunch of times and controls her on the mat, but I think that's a very winnable fight for both athletes. And if Arandami wins, there's no threat of her ever going down to 125 and taking the belt from Shevchenko, because she's as big as a bantamweight can get, and herself has fought in the featherweight division, and Valentina has beat a featherweight. She beat Holly Holm 50-45, and the fight wasn't competitive. She beat her on the feet, in the clinch, and on the mat. So I think Shevchenko could handle herself against those fighters, and I think that would help her then promote future fights.
In terms of odd celebrities they could have gone with on the broadcast, there's Daniel Rodriguez. And listen, Dave Baker was saying might have been some hand surgery there in the comments section this weekend. But when we're looking at it, they go from Robin Lehner to Jorge Masvidal. A little bit odd there. Robin Lehner, who got picked to be the goalie over Marc-Andre Fleury, who just won the Vezina. So wild stuff going on in Vegas for your Golden Knights. But yeah, Matt, we get such an interesting fight in our main event. I will flip around with the graphics. But Alexander Volkanovski taking on Brian T-City Ortega. And Brian Ortega, a motivated man with an opportunity at the title where he lost in impressive fashion to Holloway, takes a lot of time off, beats a Korean Zombie, and now he gets this opportunity here. They're giving us the particulars in terms of the odds on this one. But Brian Ortega was in the neighborhood of a plus 180, plus 185 today on Saturday to get ready for this one, which I feel is generous.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, he has a great opportunity in this one, but again, you beat the Korean Zombie, you take, great leaps and bounds in terms of your striking, but, I mean, for the Korean Zombie, where is he in this title picture? I know he's a top 10 contender. He's a top 10 contender. However, for Brian Ortega, you're taking on one of the more well-rounded guys in this division that we've really seen, and you look at that win total that he has, really, really big names and impressive wins too.
This is my issue. If we're going to criticize Brian Ortega for basically pitching a shutout against the Korean Zombie, why aren't we criticizing Volkanovski for winning a fight he could have lost to Max Holloway? Because both those things can be true. And they are true. Like, the reason Volkanovski's not a big favorite is most people thought he lost his last fight.
Against
the majority of them did. Like, I think Volkanovski is a very, very good fighter and a very well-rounded fighter. But the issue with Volkanovski is nothing he does really wows you. He doesn't throw a lot of spinning techniques. He doesn't do any Khabib-like ground and pound. I would say that's probably the closest thing he has to, like, an X-Factor trait that Alexander Volkanovski has. But Volkanovski doesn't necessarily have anything that really sets himself apart from any other champ in the UFC, and I think he's always going to be somewhat disrespected because of that while he is champion. So I don't know if I fully agree with Brian Ortega should be more of an underdog than he is, because I do think Brian Ortega's shown that between the jiu-jitsu from all of his other fights in his UFC and the improvements that he has shown in his striking, that he deserves to be in there with Volkanovski. And that's the real big thing about this fight. I think there's 7 guys in featherweight who could be champion tomorrow. There's my hot take.
Josh Emmett.
I would say Josh Emmett is as far as I would go down for who could honestly, on their best day. No, Josh Emmett's probably out the more I think about it. But like Yair Rodriguez could probably become champ one day. If Zabit ever gets healthy and comes back, he could probably be champ one day. Max Holloway's still in this division. Volkanovski, Ortega, like. Featherweight is such a talent-stacked division that I could see anybody in the top 10 becoming champ in the next 18 months.
Matt, you're really going to like this analogy and this little story I have, but there's a great comment over there from Voodoo saying, Volk is the definition of hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. I know you've been on teams before, and I've been on teams too, where there's one guy in that lineup that he is not the most talented by far, but my goodness does he work the hardest. Remember on those national softball teams, my shortstop that we had?
I do.
Yeah, he
worked hard.
Worked really hard. He'd have one of those stances where he'd stand like back and then he'd almost run into the pitch, so he had an opportunity to start off quick to first base. He was always diving around to make extra plays. Like, he was the hardest worker on that field. Might not have been the most talented player, but it got him all the way to national softball championships. It got him onto the international team. Like, he was able to do all those things for those reasons. Volkanovski's one of those guys that's just grit, toughness, and well-roundedness, and that's what makes him special. Volkanovski's not like one of those fighters. Like, Ortega's a little bit different where he's added in this extra element of his striking, or at least we saw it in his last fight, but he's not one of those super specialists. Like, Francis Ngannou has wild punching power. Demian Maia has great jiu-jitsu. Like, he's not one of those, what's the one thing that Volkanovski's good at? Like you said, he's got good pressure.
I thought you were talking about Ortega there. That's my bad.
With Volkanovski, he's got good pressure. He's got good output. He can really kind of minimize mistakes. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes, straight up. And with all of those things and the well-roundedness, that's what's put him on this trajectory of this 19-fight win streak. He hasn't lost since 2013. That's what makes him so special. I'm not telling you anything that you don't know. Also, great Ultimate Fighter coach. I mean, really good as far as the finale was concerned. And Ricky Tercios, if you're out there, and he's actually in attendance right now, so he's definitely not watching on his phone.
No.
He might be. That'd be weird. But Volkanovski did a great job over on the show. Odd trash talk, and a lot of people were asking us, like, what was said in those exchanges. I don't really know.
He was really upset that Brian Ortega popped for PEDs a few years ago.
Wouldn't you know that?
Not really. No, because I don't think a lot of people do about Brian Ortega. Here's the thing. Brian Ortega, people give a free pass to, but he did fail a steroid test.
Really cool walkout here from Ortega. He's got
pretty cool. He's got, like, the Jabberwockies masks on. Now, I know it's not the Jabberwockies. Theirs are white, but that's what I thought of.
Yeah, it's a cool mask, though. So we'll go with that. But yeah, for Brian Ortega, neat fight. Over in the comments section, anybody know the coach JV with Warriors Academy? Can't say I do.
Okay, I have to say this, though, because, and I'm going to throw you under the bus a little bit, because you told me I had to bring up my source, and the source is the guy walking out right now. Brian Ortega himself said, hey, I self-sabotage.
Paraphrasing.
No. I will bring up the direct quote, Craig, because I'm a little fired up about this. He said, I was going to party before this fight, but luckily my girlfriend said, nah, knock that 4-letter word off, because that's what happened for the Holloway fight, and you know what happened. If you are Brian Ortega, and you know, okay, I made bad decisions leading up to my last title shot, I know I have title or championship caliber talent, why would you even let that seep into your head? If you really have put the best people around you, and that's what this comes down to. Brian Ortega has changed his camp. He's put people around him, and he's developed a support system that not only helps him make the best choices in the cage, but outside the cage. And the fact that he did have that little doubt of, oh, hey, I might go do something reckless to jeopardize this opportunity really concerns me in this fight.
For Brian Ortega, he can kind of sympathize with Southern California's own Tupac, and all I need in this life is sin. Is me and my girlfriend, and that's all we saw on any of the UFC promotional material this week was the Brian Ortega, Tracy Cortez connection. A little bit of Tiki Ghostin, which is cool, right?
Nice.
He's in the corner. Obviously, Paul Herrera is in the corner as well of Brian Ortega, the guy that got absolutely whooped by a guy whose autograph I have in the back corner of this office, Gary Goodrich. My guy. But yeah, you look at the corner that he has, a superstar cast of characters. I mean, obviously, Henry Gracie's been there from jump, but Brian Ortega, all of a sudden, such a well-rounded guy at 145, a guy that we're going to see for a very long time. I wonder, though, if, Brian Ortega is one of those guys that only fights like once a year for the rest of his career.
It's just been the injuries, I think. I really do think if he can finally get healthy, it's like Kristaps Porzingis. When he's healthy, it's great. It's just a matter of can he be healthy. And the difference between MMA and the NBA is, in the NBA, you can play 15 games at like 70% health. And you might not look great, but you're kind of working yourself back into shape. Let's say Brian Ortega had like a strained MCL and he's trying to work his way back into shape against Alexander Volkanovski. We all know what would happen. Volkanovski would kick him in the leg 1,000 times and probably knock him out. In MMA, it's just, we don't see these guys so often because we only really see them when they are at 100%. And I know no fighters at 100%, they always have bumps and bruises, but that's kind of how extreme this sport is the fact that guys only having bumps and bruises on the night of them competing is kind of an accomplishment. So for Ortega, I do think we could see him be a little bit more active in the future, but this is always a really interesting time in a guy's career, is their first title shot, or their second title shot even, I guess, for Brian Ortega, because let's say Ortega does lose this fight. He's still a big star. He's still been, main events and pay-per-views. He's been much more well-known than I would just say a ranked UFC featherweight. So he's always going to have to fight a big-named opponent, and he's always going to be high up on a card. So I really do think it matters how he looks in this fight. If he gets knocked out in 3 seconds and they make him fight, let's say, Zabit next, and it's just tough fight after tough fight, then maybe we do only see Brian Ortega in there every 9 months, every 12 months, because he could be like Paulo Costa. Just his fights are too crazy. The world couldn't handle it if he fought any more often. But let's say he does lose a close decision, but he looks really good, then I could see maybe a more consistent Brian Ortega fighting 2 times a year. But I just think once you get to a title shot, it's hard to fight more than 2 times a year because the top 10 of every division is in such a logjam nowadays.
Alexander Volkanovski feeling it. And for Alexander Volkanovski, and the question was, who do you guys have? And one was saying we both have Volkanovski going into this one. I think it's a great fight, though. I think it is a really good matchup, especially for Ortega taking on a guy like Volkanovski. Where will Volkanovski shine? That's really the big question, because does he go for the takedowns, risking that submission from Ortega? Does he go into the striking knowing that, hey, Ortega got the better of a great striker in his last fight? So many question marks that I have going into this one. So far on the night, I've got an 11-2 record. You're behind me at 10-3, but it's been
done pretty well.
It's been a heck of a night. And listen, since that 1-8-1 card, it's been up from there, right?
It certainly has been. This thing I like about Alexander Volkanovski, cool and collected. Who is it who fought Montel Jackson? I almost forgot his name. That would have been awful. Is Montel Jackson the best poker player ever? Because if you want to talk about a guy who can stay, you could have a full rear naked choke on that man, and he's just, all right. Like, Monday's still in 2 days. My life still goes on. That's the thing about Alexander Volkanovski. He's very authentic to himself, and you have to appreciate it. Like, he didn't become champ and then become like Colby Covington and start saying crazy stuff. Like, he's still pretty much the exact same fighter who he was when he came into the UFC. And the thing I like about Volkanovski is his confidence. He is good in so many areas of MMA that, let's say the striking isn't working out for Alexander Volkanovski. No, I wouldn't recommend this, but he has the opportunity to take the fight to the mat if he wants to. If he decides to clinch, it's normally going to be up to him. So he not only has confidence in his everyday life, I'm assuming, but also in his game because of his well-roundedness.
Yeah, and Volkanovski making the walk. Rob G hitting up the super chat. Arnold Allen, Leon Edwards. Why can't us Brits get our title shot? Leon's the guy. Leon's the guy that probably the most deserving out of the bunch. It's hey, you've got Aspinall, you got Paddy, who's the hotness now, although good luck making lightweight again, let alone if you ever tried featherweight. But yeah, I don't know. It really is tricky.
It is, and it sucks that Arnold Allen cannot stay healthy for 1 full calendar year, because I feel like if we had 1 good year of Arnold Allen, where let's say he gets like 4 fights in.
If you had 1 good year of Arnold Allen, or maybe like a Nathaniel Wood, you'd be set.
Exactly. It's just a matter of getting some of that consistency like you had talked about with Brian Ortega. But I really do feel like England has a lot, or just they have a lot of great contenders right now on their way up. Maybe they're not ready for the title shot just yet, but in the next 2, 3, 4 years, I really do feel like that scene's booming right now.
And unfortunately for you, Rob, I don't think
Darren Till's going to make it.
Yeah, Darren Till's having a rough go. That was the guy that I was going to go with. He's
my bad.
really having a rough patch in his career, and he had a lot of time off, too, between fights. I mean, obviously, injuries have mounted up for him, and I think they really have kind of screwed some things up. But, yeah, we've got a great one coming up here between these two guys. I mean, Alexander Volkanovski on an incredible win streak, and you look at the names, Chad Mendes, Jose Aldo, Max Holloway twice, like really, really marquee guys in this division for a very long time. And Volkanovski, Ortega, heck of a fight. Voodoo saying 19-fight win streak is absolutely insane. You take Khabib out of the equation, Volkanovski is your guy right now on an absolutely wild win streak. We get the particulars on this one. Volkanovski, 32, a couple years older than Ortega, who is a couple inches in reach. Weight-wise, almost the same, half a pound for Volkanovski, both under that championship weight limit of 145. Reach lies with the smaller man in Volkanovski, not something that you see every single day. I want to thank everybody for tuning in so far, and yeah, it's been awesome. And one, I appreciate you as well. Thanks so much for tuning in. We love doing these fight companions. We're going to watch the fights anyway. Might as well hang out with you. Hopefully it gives you something. And Rob G's been hitting up the super chat, so that's been appreciated as well. I'll flip it on over to the first view as Matt walks back in. Obviously, I'm going to just explain it. We'll have the timer. If there's any issues, I can pause the timer. I can start it back up again.
One suggestion, Craig, for the new studio. Let's invest in better fight companion chairs.
Oh, I like these chairs.
Do you? Oh, my goodness. I'm a little uncomfortable.
Yeah, you just got to sit it right there. Matt, the mixing, you guys on Adderall, never had it.
No.
Not a once. Maybe it would help. I don't know. But, Matt, we get ready for our main event at 145 pounds. Volkanovski taking on a great fighter in Brian Ortega. Josh Harrising, Matt and Craig, you guys represent Canada. Great.
Thank you.
My favorite people to watch for the predictions. I get the Maple Leaf here. And I've got the Maple Leaf on the FNPNB Canada shirt. Now, I only made two of these. One for me and one for that guy. Because when I first debuted the logo, people they weren't all that receptive. Now, I toss it out there like a breadcrumb trail every now and again. I'll put it in some of the Instagram posts. I'll throw it out there in the YouTube community tab. So, listen, I hope that, it pops off at one point. But, and one, you've been here since 1,000K subs. Hyped to see you guys grow. I appreciate that. If we can get 30,000 subscribers, if you can tell a friend to tell a friend, we'll add an extra show with Contender Series. Early Stoppage is going to come out tomorrow. I kind of deviated from the script because normally I play it pretty, I don't play a fine line, if that. I play it pretty safe on some of the shows that we have. But I stirred the pot. I'll just say that. I got fired up about a couple things. I cursed and swore at the start of it, too.
We'll talk about it a little bit, Craig. Promote it.
Oh, so we actually... Victor Gutierrez saying you guys picked Diaz and he sucks.
I did.
Victor, I switched it on question mark kicks, buddy. At the start of the week, I had Diaz, and then after everything that happened during the week and the weird weight stuff, I picked Lawler. So hopefully that means anything to you, Victor. But if it doesn't, and you took it at face value at the start of the week, I'm sorry for that one. But yeah, and one, I'm really looking forward to the Contender Series stuff. And yeah, we talk about John Jones. We filmed it on Thursday night. And then last night we went, well, we got to add something to it. And then John's had computer issues today. And he's out seeing the Eagles tonight. So
good for him.
Take it to the limit. One more time.
Rally in the Valley? Is that still a thing in like football? No?
I don't know.
That's the Phoenix Suns' big Rally in the Valley. No?
The Suns that play basketball, and then you asked it about football.
Well, no, I just didn't know, is there a same type of a hashtag for them?
I don't know. You're telling me, Matt, I'm fired the F up. 145, Volkanovski taking on Brian T-City Ortega. Ortega's second opportunity at the belt. The first time definitely did not go that well. Rob G saying Ortega looks so much bigger. And that's the thing. When I thought about this at the start of the week, Ortega's this great big guy. Volkanovski's fought big guys in the past. He has.
But Brian Ortega's size is still going to be an advantage for him. And the fact that they always bring up, Volkanovski used to weigh, 205 pounds or 198 pounds, whatever it is.
The Duran win.
But the crazier stats that Dan Hooker fought at heavyweight. The fact that they bring up Volkanovski playing rugby 20 years ago, that doesn't really matter that much to me. You're in a different profession. Dan Hooker in this sport fought people at the biggest limit and fought people at featherweight. I'm sorry, but to me, that's a cooler thing.
All right, Matt, we get set for our first round at 145 pounds for the belt. Scott McCain saying, just praying it's a banger. Brian Ortega popping that jab out there early. Both guys trying to figure this one out, both in the center of the octagon as we started off, and a lot of feints and a lot of misdirection from either guy. Leg kick lands there from Volkanovski.
And that's what Volkanovski likes to do. He likes to use his leg kicks to off-balance his opponent and then set up his punches. He did that a lot against Chad Mendes in their fight, and he did it too. Some success against Jose Aldo. Now, with Aldo, he was clinching a lot, so that will be interesting to see. Will he decide to close the distance against a guy like Brian Ortega, who not only sets up his submissions on the map, but he can do it from the clinch, too?
Are you surprised? I mean, we've got two orthodox fighters here. That Volkanovski continues to go for an inside leg kick.
Not really, because that's the thing about Volkanovski's game. He's going to show you the inside leg kick, then the outside. He himself's going to be switching stances, so I just think this is all him setting things up for later on, because we're only, a minute into a 25-minute fight.
Yeah, I mean, a nice outside leg kick lands there for Volkanovski. Ortega goes up high. Ortega switched stance a couple of times, working from southpaw, working from orthodox, trying to get those different looks, but very much a feeling out process in the first minute and 15 seconds here.
And you can just tell with the kicks, kicking comes a lot more naturally to a guy like Alexander Volkanovski than it does Brian Ortega. With Volkanovski, his kicks just come off the ground. With Ortega, there is a bit of a setup to it.
Ortega trying to kind of close that distance, pops a couple of jabs out there quick. Didn't really look like anything landed all that significantly for him. Volkanovski lands a nice one of his own range.
Yeah, that was a good shot by Volkanovski, and that's the thing he's going to be waiting on Brian Ortega to do. When Ortega's waiting for Volkanovski to come on the inside, he can hit him with power shots. When the roles are reversed, though, that's when Volkanovski
big time right hand lands for Alexander Volkanovski, and Ortega swings and lands a right of his own. Both guys landing in that exchange. Much earlier, we had a nice, it almost looked like it wasn't so much of a jab. It was a little bit of a left hook there that landed for Volkanovski. Started to find success. Big right hand lands for Volkanovski.
The hand speed of Volkanovski has really been the difference so far. It's not that Brian Ortega is a bad boxer by any means. It's just he's trying to set all of his tactics up at long range, and Volkanovski's just meeting him at the middle before he can set anything up.
Volkanovski switching things up, goes for a kick to the body. Good head movement there, and he fakes that right hand. I'm getting into it.
Yeah, this has been a really good first round so far. Good feeling out from both guys. Ortega's trying to establish the range, but Volkanovski's doing a great job just darting on the inside. When he leads off with the overhand right, which is normally counterintuitive, you want to set that technique up. He's having good success.
Left hook lands for Volkanovski. Both guys starting to land their own shots here. Ortega pumping that jab out there. And we talk about length as being such a big difference maker in MMA. Ortega obviously has 2 inches in terms of reach. He's at a in terms of height, he's at a disadvantage in terms of reach in this fight.
That is wild. Now, only because I remember the Max Holloway setup is Volkanovski had a bigger reach than Max Holloway, too. Like, Volkanovski is a very well-built man for this division. And I mean that he's compact, you know? He has a low center of gravity if you're trying to take him down, and he's super physically strong.
Big right hand landed for Volkanovski. He lands a jab. He lands another right hand. Minute 45 remaining. Josh Hart saying Volkanovski is a monster. Rob G earlier settling into a kickboxing match. Ortega needs to mix it up, and it's just a question of when, really.
Volkanovski's got a little cut, though, under his left eye, it seems.
Yeah, he does. I mean, that jab's been there from Ortega when he's been working from that southpaw stance. It's really a nice 1, 2, and even 3 jabs, and something that you don't see a lot in MMA, more so in boxing.
Ortega's doing a good job when he is at that long range, but the issue is he's not doing anything to prevent Volkanovski from just coming up the middle. Anthony Joshua, to prevent Usyk from getting on the inside, was throwing an uppercut to the body. He was throwing an uppercut to the head. He was throwing techniques up the middle to make it so his opponent couldn't just dart in. Ortega hasn't been doing that yet, but he is somebody who's great with his elbows, so if he is able to time one of those later on, I wouldn't be surprised if he's able to land a big
Ortega
elbow.
grabbed the kick on the break there, but unable to do a whole lot with it. Nice left hook lands for Volkanovski. 50 seconds remaining.
I think Ortega might be cut over the left eye.
Ortega's got a cut over that left eye. You're 100% right.
These guys are both throwing heat in this first round.
Man, we've had a good one. A little bit of blood starting to pour out of the cut on Volkanovski. He lands a nice left hook. That left hook's there all night.
And it's just the hand speed of Volkanovski really has been the key. Again,
at
long
nice
range, Ortega can land good shots and have success. It's just when it is on the inside and when it does become a speed game, not just a power game, that's where Volkanovski can have success.
I mean, both guys having success in this round so far. I mean, you never know. 20 seconds could steal it. It's been really close. Nice jab lands for Volkanovski. 15 seconds remaining.
Really close first round, hard one to score because Volkanovski does have that small cut under his eye, but I would say Volkanovski's probably landed the harder shots out of the two in this first round.
Nice body kick there for Volkanovski, and then you got a left hand from Ortega, who landed a nice left hand. When I had a little bit of a reaction, that was exactly what it was too.
And that's the thing you have to remember. Okay, Brian Ortega almost won the first round, or arguably could have won the first round, against a guy who's a primary striker, and Brian Ortega's bread and butter isn't even in the striking.
Yeah, I mean, you've got, 3 strikes separate them, no takedowns so far. And for Volkanovski, and I'm not trying to go anywhere. You just wonder if there's too many cooks in the kitchen when you train primarily in Australia and then Eugene Behrman makes the trip and there's so many people in there, especially in these title fights when you have so many different people in your corner. It's just a bit of a weird one.
The only issue is that the greatest fighter of all time proved that that's not a problem at all. GSP went to TriStar New York and New Mexico, traveled between all of them, and never had one consistent head coach. So,
Tim O'Malley, what is going on? Kyle Kelly, yeah, you ended up going to Unified there. That was a great card, and I saw Shane Campbell in his fight, so that's a big one. Obviously, that was a weird one, especially, but yeah, unknown. Lighten this card up. I've been having fun. It's been a good one so far. We get ready for a second round. Ortega taking on Volkanovski. Really close first round. I've got it 10-9 Volkanovski, but I could see an argument either way.
I would say Brian Ortega landed the cleanest shot of that round, although I would say the volume of heavy shots were more on the side of Volkanovski. But Ortega landed one nice straight shot that definitely got the respect from Volkanovski.
All right, we're just settling into our second round here so far. Let us know who you scored it for, because I haven't seen any scores over there yet. But yeah, it's been a good one. Volkanovski really trying to invest in those kicks to the body.
And maybe that's just to try to slow Ortega down later on in the fight. Again, the only time we've seen Ortega tested in a 5-round fight, he got tired, and that was really his downfall. So it'll be interesting to see if he does start to tire in this matchup against Volkanovski, because Chan Sung Jung fought at Brian Ortega's pace, and if you fight at your opponent's pace, they will never get tired. If you force your pace, though, and start making them react to what you're doing, then they will start to fatigue.
Kyle is saying you got Volkanovski winning the first, but it was close, 100%. We don't get those Twitter reactions if they're popping up on the screen. I'm not seeing them, but another nice leg kick there from Volkanovski. Nice one from Ortega.
That's the thing, Brian Ortega, when people start landing leg kicks on him, he'll start to laugh. It's a double jab and then this really looping right leg kick. He'll land it a couple of times, but he's never really been that dedicated to it throughout his career. I'd love it if he did add that technique a little bit more into his repertoire.
Yeah, he's working here. Ooh, it's a big right hand from Volkanovski. That one landed.
Volkanovski's just put so much pressure on you. He puts a pace.
That's the thing. When you get a short king like that in the octagon, that's all you can do.
It really is. And for Brian Ortega, that's the thing. That's when reach can become a disadvantage. If you don't know how to use your reach, then having a long reach doesn't help you. If anything, it just means that you can only hit guys really hard at a very specific distance.
Another right hand there lands, and it almost looked like there could have been a clash of heads.
That's the thing. Ortega will land a clean shot here and there, and they are landing on Volkanovski.
Lands a couple of left hands and then the right behind it, but we got a little bit of blood popping up there. It's on T-City, but it's tough to tell how it ultimately happened. Again, I wasn't sure if both guys, a little bit of a clash there. Volkanovski offering a different opportunity on that way in. 250 remaining in our second round. We've had a good one so far.
We really have. It's been a great fight night, or pay-per-view, top to bottom. Great main event, too. For Brian Ortega, he just never gets a chance to breathe. You never really get a chance when you're fighting Volkanovski to, okay, reassess, now I know what I'm going to do. He's just always on you, creating those exchanges.
T-City went for the head kick after the nice leg kick there from Volkanovski, who switched from those inside leg kicks back to the outside. Now, it all depends on Ortega and him switching stances. But, again, when he's working out of that orthodox stance, Volkanovski's starting to capitalize. And that movement, nice bang, bang, 1-2 off the pipe, and a big right hand there from Volkanovski, who initiates the wrestling as he's finding success in the strike.
I think that was just to give Brian Ortega a different look, though, and to bring his hands down, because when he is letting his own hands go, he's starting to bust up Brian Ortega.
Nice leg kick there from Ortega.
But again, those kicks, and I'm sure you've noticed it too, when Brian Ortega throws kicks, you can tell they're coming from a ways away. He shifts a lot of weight on that back hip.
Nice body kick there from Volkanovski. It's body kick, then it's outside calf kick. I mean, really doing a great job. Rob G, T-City hanging in there with the striking. Maybe his game plan is to take it to the ground. As it goes on, I could see that for sure. Volkanovski having some success, though, and starting to pull away a little bit in terms of the striking in this round. The live numbers, roughly, they're really, really close, guys. Like, they're almost the same so far through this one.
Very evenly matched fight so far. Like, this is like an Usman-Covington type of a fight up to this point.
Ooh. Volkanovski hitting with power, landing that left hook there.
And for Volkanovski, again, that's the thing. Nothing he does makes you think, like, wow, I'd never be able to do that in my life. You know what I mean? Like, when I watch Yair when I watch Yair Rodriguez, I look at him fight and I go, no matter what I do, I'll never be able to do what he does. With Volkanovski, it's a lot of basic boxing combinations. It's a lot of just basic setups and kickboxing combinations. But it's kind of like with Tim Duncan. If you're just really good at the fundamentals, it works and it can take you really, really far. And that's kind of what I see when I look at Volkanovski. Yes, it might not be flashy, but it gets the job done.
45 seconds remaining in this second round here. It's been another close one. The first one could have gone either way. Strikes were very, very even. Same thing in this the second round. To me, we're closing in on 30 seconds remaining. Volkanovski's really kind of put it together in this one, and he's had Ortega on the back foot. He's landed the more impactful strikes.
I would agree 100%. Right now, I've got Volkanovski up 2-9 as he just lands a nice overhand. And that's the thing about Volkanovski. He does not set up his power shots. He will just throw the technique for the sake of throwing the technique. And I think that catches a lot of guys off guard because they're used to, okay, jab, then the right hook. Volkanovski will start with the right hook, then follow it up with an uppercut just to go to an outside leg kick. Like, he's almost so basic that it becomes unorthodox.
And then we get the end of our second round. We're going to talk a little bit of smack. Guys, we're fighting. That's cool. We're having fun.
No, let's go for it.
All right, just a fight.
Volkanovski.
It's just a fist fight, Matt. I'll bring up the numbers in this one. 50-44. So what? It was a 3 straight differential in the first round. Now it's to 4. So there's a 1 bit of difference. California going 20-18 Volkanovski. I have a 20-18 Volkanovski.
Kyle Kelly, I don't think he's ever going to go by that nickname, but if I ever get in a room with Alexander Volkanovski one-on-one, I'm going to give him the breakdown. I'm going to go, hey, big fan from the outside. I like your work. I think you're very good.
Kyle Kelly on YouTube said.
Yeah, exactly. Kyle Kelly on YouTube said, the small fundamental might be the nickname. That's a good one. I like it.
Slow and steady wins the race.
It does, but again, Volkanovski, he's not like an Adesanya. He's not like a... Even throw Alistair Overeem in there, for instance, like a bigger guy who's still so light on his feet. Nothing Volkanovski does makes you think, oh, another guy in 10 years can't come along and recreate this. But it's a lot of the extra. It's a lot of like the meta game. It's a lot of him thinking and setting things up and making his opponent think. That's the thing about Alexander Volkanovski that really does set him apart. It's the fight IQ aspect.
We get set for our third round of 5 between Volkanovski and Ortega. Ultimate Fighter. Coaches going at it. Ricky Tercios, I'm sure, is out there watching this one for, I don't know.
It's having fun.
Yeah, he's just having fun. He is Tony Ferguson 2.0. 15 seconds in, really nice leg kick lands, and there was a left hook too as Ortega kind of started to fall a little bit. Eats another leg kick.
Ortega almost went for like a jumping teep kick. That was interesting.
Something you don't see every day. Volkanovski minus 525, so it seems like the bettors and the fans must have Volkanovski taking the first 2.
That small sequence right there, though, is the epitome of Volkanovski's game. He did everything perfectly defensively. He put his hand on Ortega's forehead to keep the distance. Ortega throws the body kick, catches it with the same hand, and lands a strike all in the same movement.
Now we're to the point where Volkanovski's starting to take over because you think, again, in terms of height, my mind's eye just plays a factor and goes, well, Ortega's a bigger guy. Volkanovski has a reach advantage. We talked about that in the first round.
Ooh, big shots from Volkanovski.
Big 1-2 from Volkanovski, and man... He's doing a great job. Now he's got to watch out for those outstretched fingers. Herb already warned him. Big right hand.
Ortega's hurt. Volkanovski landed a clean overhand that seemed to have wobbled Ortega a little bit.
Volkanovski trying to figure out a way to get this one finished. Brian Ortega wants it on the ground.
Yeah, Brian Ortega's not interested in the striking right now.
Ortega's starting to slow down.
That's the thing. It's the combination. It's the pressure. Eventually people start to break
from it. Big right hand lands for Volkanovski. Gets it into the clinch. Ortega has success there.
That was really nice bodywork from Ortega, but again, he needs more. He can't just be waiting on the attacks of Volkanovski and hoping to counter with one single shot, because I hate to break it to you, if Max Holloway...
Oh, Ortega lands a good combination. Eats one from Volkanovski.
These boys are throwing now. They're fighting now. They're not just boxing.
Yeah, we're about 3 minutes remaining in our third round. These guys are going at it. Just when you thought Volkanovski was pulling away with this one. Ortega comes right back, and he is leaking at this point.
I was just about to say, he's starting to show the damage now, isn't he? He
Ooh.
needs 2 more clean shots.
Volkanovski eats shots to give shots in that exchange.
Volkanovski, if he has fights like this, then he can become a star.
This is one of those guys, and man, he's landed a nice jab. He's keeping distance. He's keeping Ortega guessing, but even when Ortega's guessing, even when he gets in maybe not compromising positions, but in that clinch exchange that was forced by Volkanovski, it's Ortega winning out.
That was
another
nice.
1-2 lands for
And
Volkanovski.
Volkanovski set that up with his feet. He stepped completely to the outside of Brian Ortega's eyesight and then landed with a right hand. That was a nice shot by Ortega.
Nice
but again,
left hand.
It's the 1 shot per minute from Ortega to the 20 being thrown by Volkanovski.
And Volkanovski doling out the damage here in this third round. The small fundamental, ooh, hits him behind the ear with the right hand.
Yeah, the damage is starting to accumulate on Brian Ortega. We've seen this once before.
Oh, he
Good
lands
right
his
hand.
own.
Oh, it's over.
That might be it. That might be it.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, he's about to choke out.
That's going to be
Yeah.
it.
Oh my goodness. Alexander Volkanovski is going to get choked out by Brian Ortega with a guillotine.
He is trying to get out of this
Oh my goodness. What a turn of events.
one. Brian Ortega. Oh, he's got it tight. He's
No,
out.
he's out.
Oh, man.
Alexander Volkanovski with the takedown defense of the Lords.
Brian
right there.
Ortega in
Full
full
mount.
mount.
Yeah, Volkanovski's going to be really smart about where he leaves his neck and his arms right now because he's on the ground with one of the most dangerous grapplers in the whole UFC, who's setting up a Darce choke right now.
Volkanovski with all of his might, working
No,
his own
he's good,
single,
he's good,
and
he's
he's
good.
on top.
He got on
Oh
top.
my gosh.
Wow, that was all or nothing for Brian Ortega right there, but that was a great respawn.
That
by
was one of the
Volkanovski.
greatest grappling sequences that we've seen in a long time. Oh my goodness, Alexander Volkanovski, the small fundamental gets out of the bad position. Now he's on top raining his own shots.
I don't think this is a good position for him. I know he kind of got dropped by Brian Ortega right there, but still, I don't think I'd want to mess around with Ortega on the mat. But maybe Volkanovski just thought, hey, I felt his best right there. It can't get worse than that.
Minute remaining in this round, and both guys landing shots as we're on the mat. But man, if this gets to the end of the round,
That
it's
was
going to be a
insane.
hard one to score.
This is what I'm going to say. You know what I always say about Cyril Gahn is, I don't know how good you are. until-
Ortega maybe going for triangle.
Yeah, he's
Ooh.
got a triangle locked in. Yeah, he's going to get a triangle choke. Yeah, it's over.
Oh,
I
can
don't think Volkanovski
Volkanovski
can
last
do
for
this.
45 seconds? This
Not
one's
in a
tight.
Full triangle choke, I don't think.
This one's tight.
This is absurd right now from Alexander Volkanovski, but Brian Ortega's basically got
He's
him.
going to get out of it.
Oh my goodness.
gosh, he get out of it.
Ortega
Ortega
going
gets
for
the back. Now he's too far.
This has
Volkanovski.
just been wild. So, yeah, Brian Ortega had the back of Volkanovski. Volkanovski bucks him off and then ends up on top of Brian Ortega. This has been a grueling fight.
Volkanovski landed from stack guard. He's hit hard. Ortega might be out.
This is what... No, I don't think he is. He's eating damage, though, up against the cage. This is what I like about Alexander Volkanovski when I say I don't know how good you are as a champion until you faced adversity. He's faced tons of adversity tonight, and he's still found a way to get through it.
30-27
These
for
are
me for
hard shots.
Volkanovski if he wins this one. And I
Oh,
know
yeah.
that sounds crazy. Man, he landed so much damage at the end of that round.
Ortega's out.
He might give out.
This is a Eric Silva, Matt Brown type of a loss, I think. I think it's over. I think he put a pace on him he can't deal
I'm
with.
surprised. You got to pick him up onto the stool.
he's
Let's
good.
see what Herb Dean makes of this.
This is a close one. Brian Ortega's not in great shape, though. That's safe to say, right?
Like I said, if that last 30 seconds didn't happen, Ortega won that round. He was starting to kind of pull away. Look at the damage. Right eye is swollen as can be. Man, Merabdashvili, Marlon Moraes was a wild fight. This one's right up there. This has been a great night of fights.
Remember when I said this is probably going to be one of those nights where you get 2 fight of the nights and like a bunch of performance bonuses? The fight of the nights are Merab and Moraes and Brian Ortega, Alexander Volkanovski. We're going to learn a lot about Brian Ortega, though, in this next round, because if he comes out like a bat out of hell and like is like, okay, the fight just started, then he might still have a chance to win this. But if Volkanovski lands the first 2 shots of this round, I think he's just going to keep on building from there.
Alexander Volkanovski has the heart of one small warrior and a village.
I don't care how skilled you are. If you don't have heart, you're nothing. Alexander Volkanovski not only has tons and tons of skill, he doesn't give up, and that means a lot.
Don't end it. Don't end it.
I mean, they could.
Yeah, they might end
They
it.
might. His orbital seems a little jacked up. But if they don't, we are in for another 10 minutes of absolute craziness. I mean, he's hurt, but he's
This
not.
doesn't look good.
No, it doesn't. Brian Ortega's pretty hurt.
Yeah, that's not a good look of a guy that's in a cage fight.
I'd be surprised they let him continue if they've given him this much time in between rounds.
Herb Dean's giving him the eye test because Herb's...
Let's just... We're not doctors, Craig, and we're not there, so let's not. They're letting him fight.
We're going to let him fight.
Wow.
Oh.
This is a wild fight. First of all,
Fighters fight.
Volkanovski got out of a Darce choke, rear naked choke, and guillotine from probably the most dangerous submission threat in the UFC.
Best grappler 130 or 145.
Arguably the best grappler under, well, okay, Charles Oliveira. But, like, Brian Ortega has that level of submission ability.
Oh, man. All right. We've got Alexander Volkanovski, who put on an incredible pace right at the end. I mean, so far, yeah, I've got a 30-27 Volkanovski. That late bit of damage, that takes it.
The last 45 seconds of Alexander Volkanovski's life have been pretty crazy. He went from almost getting choked unconscious and losing his title to putting an absolute beatdown on the challenger. So, this round is probably going to be it no matter who wins. Either Ortega could land a big shot and submit him, or Volkanovski's going to keep on doing what he has been.
Volkanovski trying to figure this one out. Probably can't believe that Brian Ortega is still in this one.
Big overhand from Volkanovski landed.
Lands a nice left hand and a right hand. Ortega flown with the punches a little bit, but not in a good way.
But he isn't moving terribly. Again, he's not throwing a lot right now, and that's the thing I always worry about when guys take a lot of damage. It just seems like that's the first thing that goes. It's okay, I'm getting hurt. Now I'm not focused on hurting you. I'm just focused on making myself hurt less.
Inside leg kick landed for Volkanovski. Both guys going back and forth. Mike Watkins, small warrior in a village. How did Volkanovski escape that choke?
I don't know.
Because he's got the power of will.
Yeah, I don't really know. Because a choke like that, if you're in full mount with the guillotine on a guy, he should be out.
These guys are in an absolute firefight. It's tough to describe, but both guys landing incredibly. Ortega initiates the grappling.
Ooh, He almost got it. Now, he likes to do this pullover guillotine technique when guys duck up against the cage.
And he ends up on top. Volkanovski back up. Ortega going for the choke.
I think Volkanovski feels a lot more comfortable in these grappling exchanges, though, after that fourth round, or third round, because he's gotten out 2 submissions so far, and this is a good spot for Ortega, but he doesn't have the submission, I was just about to say.
Ortega's got a weird submission. It looks like it's locked up if he's able to get both hands in on it, but just one arm kind of holding Volkanovski in place, and now Volkanovski up on top.
Volkanovski, I don't know if muscles beat jiu-jitsu every day of the week, but on Saturdays they seem to.
Well, from what I see on r/BJJ, they don't like the muscle dummies coming in just trying to out-muscle white belts.
Merab Dvalishvili and Alexander Volkanovski are just lifting weights and saying, what?
Get those guys on a podcast.
Oh my goodness.
Volkanovski had a half guard here. Now he's going to land some damage. This isn't good. I mean, you got half the round left. Ortega is a tough SOB. We know that.
That's what I mean. They're not going to stop the fight just from shots like this because of how good Ortega is on the mat. Let's say if it was like a Lauren Murphy type, and I don't mean to throw her under the bus worse than her night's already probably been, but you get the idea. Like, Murphy's not a big threat off of her back, whereas Brian Ortega, any second of any fight, can submit you 10 different ways as he pushes off the cage to go for a heel hook into a triangle choke.
Yeah, Brian Ortega doing a great job here. Even though he's on bottom and accepting damage, you got to worry about him. Volkanovski doing a great job of submission defense, though.
And Nicholas, just to respond to your comment that can't be seen and your other one, listen, that's all about what being an MMA fan is. You don't like people, they earn your respect through fighting, and then you like them. Because Brian Ortega, I don't know how you could not have earned the respect of Alexander Volkanovski from this performance. He's shown every aspect of MMA.
Oh, he landed a big left hand there.
And he's putting a pace on Brian Ortega, too.
No, Ortega trying to fish for an arm, anything off his back, but
this got no energy.
Yeah, this is Brian's world if he is to play around that way. But yeah, Volkanovski stacking guard and landed some heavy shots, and Herb Dean getting a good look at this one. If he doesn't fight back, I mean, you never know.
Yeah, you'd have to think that was a clean left hand.
Big left hand hits.
Oh yeah, these are some clean shots from the stack guard now from Volkanovski. Yeah,
this is old time MMA right here.
Yeah, these are some like Jeremy Kennedy. Get out of here, Volkanovski shots.
Awkward spot. Minute 5 seconds remaining in our... We're in the fourth round so far.
This has been a wild pace that these guys have been able to keep for 4 rounds.
Minute remaining. Volkanovski putting on a lot of damage here. And just to think, Brian Ortega, you talked about it. There's 4 or 5 guys that have a claim to challenge. So many fun fights to make here, and Volkanovski's making it look easy right now.
Exactly. Now, let's listen. Volkanovski didn't just... This isn't a cakewalk of a fight by any means, but the way that he was able to rally after that round by Ortega is just so impressive. And the thing about Volkanovski, too, is he's still getting better, I feel like. I don't feel like this is a guy who is set in his ways. I think he is still improving as a striker and as a fighter overall.
Kind of surprised. Ortega standing back up, really not looking good there.
That was like a Michael Johnson, Justin Gaethje. I'm gonna take my time getting up because Ortega's feeling it.
Yeah, that was kind of hard to watch, and I'd be surprised. We'll see what happens at the end of this round with the corner of Ortega. But again, nobody's going to throw a towel in. We got 3 seconds remaining.
Henry Gracie might because he has before. He cares about Brian. That's what I was going to say. All those people who Brian Ortega has around him, I don't care about any of them except for Henry Gracie.
He's marching back to the corner. We're here in that 5th and final.
Because if you've ever heard about Brian Ortega and Henry Gracie's connection and their story, it really is phenomenal. Henry Gracie's like a pseudo-father to Brian Ortega, pretty much. And that's why I say, other than Henry Gracie, I don't care about all these new people Brian Ortega brings into his circle. Like, all that stuff's nice and it sounds good for cameras, but until Brian Ortega, I don't even know what I'm expecting out of him, I guess. It's just, I would like to see him stick with the gym for a little bit of time. Could you imagine how good he was if, let's say, he went to King's MMA for his striking and did his jiu-jitsu, still with Henner, because they're not that far away from each other. Just, I feel like there's options out there for Brian Ortega, and I feel like those options could eventually get him to a title. It just sucks to see these beatings that he has taken and the 2 title opportunities that he's had.
Kainoa Chung, I've worked really hard in the last, 3 years to build this channel up. I'm not going to let it go. So there's that. But we get set for our 5th and final round. I mean, Brian Ortega's taking on a ton of damage. Nicholas saying, stop saying that they should end it. But the doctor's here. Herb's wondering about it. And the guy's taking a ton of punishment. Plus, like, he's not defending a ton of it when he's on the mat.
But the problem is that he still has a chance to win.
Oh, that's true.
And the thing about Brian Ortega is he's known for the rally. And he's a crazy finisher. Like, most of his wins come by finish, not by decision. So it is hard to say that there should be one of those, like, in-between rounds or maybe a lighter end of a stoppage type of a fight. But it is a lot of damage that he is taking. I do agree 100%.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a great one. Obviously, Ortega needs a finish here in the 5th and final round. For me, I've got Volkanovski up 4-0. But you can make an argument here and there. It has been competitive. But listen, the last 2 rounds, Volkanovski's poured it on, especially with Ortega on the ground.
Well, okay, Ortega had some submission attempts that had me very nervous. I don't know about you, but yeah, on the mat, Volkanovski's had a lot of success, and that's not where I thought he was.
Nice head kick from Ortega.
Very nice. That was a good response. But for Ortega, it's just him giving up space too much. That's what I talk about when he's at range. When you're just standing there with Brian Ortega, you saw the damage he was able to do early. If he sticks behind the jab and uses his straight shots, he's a nightmare to deal with at that long range. But once you do get on the inside of it and he's not using those elbows, which I gotta be honest, I'm gonna throw myself under the bus. Elbows are something that Brian Ortega himself has talked about as
Ortega going body lock takedown, unable to get it.
As being something where, hey, I'm a big guy for featherweight. Guys know it. I have long range of my punches. I'm going to use these elbows on guys who get in close. He hasn't thrown a single elbow in this fight against Alexander Volkanovski, where he's thrown a lot against Chan Sung Jung, Max Holloway, and Frankie Edgar.
Yeah, I mean, for this, Volkanovski hasn't given him the option. That's the thing. He just hasn't gotten out of his face, continues to give him an opportunity, not waiting to download a game plan, just go, go, go. So it's been a great fight, obviously, from the man himself, Volkanovski. We get a stoppage. Oh, we're still fighting. We're not going to pause the camera, so that's good. Rob G hitting us up in the super chat again. 6 a.m. in England. That's what I stay up for this one. And Kainoa Chung just not reading the description or anything, just wants to see a channel burn.
Rob G, hopefully you get some sleep and you don't have big plans tomorrow. Goodness.
Yes, that's true. We're getting ready for next weekend's Walker-Santos card. Walker and Santos. It's a good one.
Yeah, it should be a fun fight. I don't really have a lot of thoughts on that early, if I'm being completely honest. I'm going to have to do a little bit more tape study just because both guys are such knockout artists and both guys are so susceptible to getting finished that really that fight could go any different way.
Right from the start, for me, if we're talking about it, I'm going with Walker. Ooh, big shot landed there for Ortega. Got the respect of Volkanovski. Even looks surprised that he got hit that hard.
It's just not enough, I don't think. That's the problem.
Ortega having a lot of success here. Halfway through our 3rd and final round. Or sorry, our 5th and final round. My goodness.
He's taken so much
big
damage.
right hand lands for Volkanovski.
Too. Ortega's taken a lot of damage in 2 fights. And that's just... And he's a guy who had been taking a lot of beatings throughout his career up until this point. I worry how long this durability is going to last for. Because, like with Dan Hooker, he showed that, hey, sometimes you can go from being crazy durable, you get finished, it's an oddity, and you can come back and be pretty durable. With Brian Ortega, I feel like this is going to run out at some point. Like, this cannot be sustainable.
I mean, Darren Elkins did it for a long time.
But Darren Elkins didn't fight for a title. Brian Ortega's fought for 2.
Minute and 50 remaining in our 5th and final round. Obviously, it goes without saying Ortega needs a finish. He's swinging for the fences, and he's having a lot more success in this 5th round. You see, it's marking up Volkanovski's face. Like, Ortega is taking this round.
I don't know if he's taking the round. I still think Volkanovski's in control right now. I just feel like he's taking his foot off the gas a little bit because he doesn't want to walk into a big shot. I think Volkanovski's fine winning a fight 50-45 or winning a fight via 5th round knockout. I just don't think it matters to him.
Yeah, I mean, for me, if it ended right now, it's a 49-46, but we've had a great rally back from Ortega, who just a couple of rounds ago, he thought maybe he could have been finished.
Yeah, just this has been a great fight. Like, this has had everything. It's had fun grappling, great striking. Like, I've had a great time watching this.
Volkanovski's starting to slow down, not really throwing those pressure combos, not really working behind that leg kick. Freelance 81 hitting us up with the super chat. The man who himself fought Robbie Lawler, a winner on this card.
Which
this
is
fight
wild.
Has been crazy. Thanks for the commentary, guys. Thank you, Freelance. It's been a wonderful day for Fight Night Picks. And listen, if we reach up to that 30,000 subscriber mark, man, I'm excited. Like Dana White's Contender Series breakdowns, among other things.
Yeah, it's going to be a good time. Again, we're growing the channel, guys, and we couldn't do it without any of you guys. So it's all y'all at 6 a.m. in England or, 2 a.m. in Canada. Like, it's all because of you guys that this stuff's possible, so...
Ortega having a heck of a 5th round here.
He is, but again, I don't think him just throwing more volume in this 5th round is enough for me to really change my opinion on Brian Ortega moving forward. That's really the question, I guess. Where do you put Brian Ortega in the division now? He's lost to Volkanovski and to Max Holloway, so do you think he can ever get back up to a title shot? Do you think maybe lightweight's a move for him in the future? Like, what do you think the options are for Brian Ortega?
I think it's featherweight, but man, he is hammering away. 7 seconds remaining. Ortega's having some success. Now these guys go. Volkanovski initiating the clinch. 1 second remaining. I've got 49-46. For me, I think Ortega won that last round. And for Rob G, I think Tottenham beats Arsenal tomorrow.
I think Volkanovski probably won either 50-45, 49-46. That was a masterful performance, though, from Volkanovski. He looked phenomenal.
That really was a great one. I'll pop that logo back up there as we start to lose some frames. So maybe it's time to go.
There we go.
Now it's working again. You hate to see that. Yeah, Volkanovski fought a great one, and then, I mean, really, just like Jay-Z, it's on to the next one.
It is, and who is that next one? Could it be the winner of Max Holloway versus
Yair Rodriguez?
Could it be Giga Chikadze? Like, who really knows? Featherweight's in a really fun spot right now. There's so many great fighters in the division. From unranked fighters to the very top in the top 5. Like, featherweight is one of the most exciting divisions in the UFC, if not the most. I would say right now it's featherweight, bantamweight, and lightweight. Yeah? Probably the top 3 divisions in the UFC. So, personally, I don't really care who they go for the next title shot. I still think it's going to be a great fight. Like, we're not going to see an Alexander Volkanovski minus 1,700 anytime soon.
No, 100%. The Californian, yeah, it could be a 49-45 too. You could have scored that at 10-8.
Yeah, that's probably fair.
I wouldn't be wild about it. Like I said, I've got a 49-46. But, yeah, I definitely... I don't think Ortega won that fight. Let me tell you that much.
He ate some damage. A lot of it.
A lot of damage. Never good to see. You don't like it.
No, you don't. Get some Flex Seal on that.
So to give you an idea before this fight, is in terms of the votes, 67% Volkanovski to 33% that had Ortega. We'll get our official result, but the strikes overwhelmingly in terms of Volkanovski. They don't give you the cage control time on that one.
That's... Volkanovski, again, looked really great, though. It'll be weird if Max Holloway does beat Yair Rodriguez, though, and they're like, hey... Do you guys want to see Max Holloway versus Alexander Volkanovski for a 3rd time? Yeah, that would be a great fight because both guys are so good and they are so well-rounded. But it's really hard sell to say, hey, I know this guy lost twice, but maybe he'll win for the 3rd time. So it's an exciting time to be Alexander Volkanovski. I think that's fair to say.
We get our official decision here. Your and still, a couple of and stills on the night, so we assume. But, you know, you got to get the particulars. I already threw it out there into the ethos. I got a little early on that one, but yeah, Volkanovski fought a great fight. Ortega had some moments. We saw that with those 2 deep submission attempts, but yeah, ultimately a great one for Volkanovski. Jesse Crayford saying, woo, that was a good fight.
That was.
Definitely was. Dylan R., appreciate you. Appreciate my evening, my morning, my early morning. But yeah, it's been a wild night. Mike Watkins hitting us up in the super chat. No, thank you both. Thank you, Mike. We get the and still from Volkanovski. It is 2:10. Our time here. We've got, Johnny Walker taking on a really tough test in Thiago Santos. But, Matt, I just want to say thanks to everybody out there. Those that follow us on Instagram, that follow us on Twitter. There's so many positive messages out there the negativity's kind of gone away, which is always nice, but everybody's having a great time enjoying the fights, and we might not all disagree on them, but or agree on them. We might disagree on them, but yeah, it's been a wild ride. Since I won 1 week, it's been nothing but up.
Don't even bring it up, Craig. Like, it's past us.
It was a turning point.
Exactly.
It really has been. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Next weekend, big time fight. The office is going to change. What are you looking forward to coming up in combat sports, Matt?
I got a busy week next week, Craig, much less combat sports.
UFC 267?
UFC 267 is really exciting. I have a new menu at work I have to get ready for. You're moving, so a lot of busy things going on next week. Of course, we have new shows coming out. There's going to be Johnny Walker, Thiago Santos, Question Mark Kicks on Saturday. No Fight Companion. If you did join along and you're just checking in for our Fight Companion right now, we normally only do these for the pay-per-views, but we are always going live 2 hours before the fight card on Question Mark Kicks for any of the fight nights or whatnot. So no matter what, on a Saturday, you will still be able to listen to us talk about fights for at least 1 hour.
Whether you like it or not, you can also find us at 15-minute card breaks. There's going to be more content on that channel as well. You can pick up some of the sweet swag if you want to. Fight night picks. There's Joshua Hart's full card betting guide. All sorts of great stuff. At the end of the night, 12-2, 11-3, one hell of a night in terms of the picks. Hopefully you enjoyed it. We'll catch you again next week with the Santos card. It might come out on a different day, but I'll post that on the socials, so look out for it. Matt, as we always say with Fight Night Picks, let's get into it.
Ladies and gentlemen, recorded in Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada, it's time for Fight Night Picks with your host, Craig and Matt.